Hey, welcome to Tone Talk with Mark Uzansky and Dave Friedman. We have got Lyle Caldwell from Psionic Audio on tonight.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Wait, did Mark pronounce it right?
Yeah, Psionic Audio.
Okay.
Yay! I'm such a brilliant businessman that I chose a name no one can pronounce or spell. So, it works.
I thought that's what it was, but I just wanted to make sure because Mark has a habit of not getting it right the first time.
I'm just saying, Mark, if you're named Huzansky, you ought to be pretty particular about the pronunciations.
Yes, I usually am, but I usually get it wrong though. I try, but I usually get it wrong.
Yeah, I'm particular because people call me Kyle. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, and I mean, I understand we're outnumbered. The Kyles outnumber the Lyles, but the Lyles are better.
Yeah, but do you
apologies to any of the Kyles watching?
Yeah, but L-K, come on.
Yeah, alphabetical, right there. I see them on my keyboard right now.
Real close. Yeah, exactly. Real close. Man. Well, it's great to have you on. I know we've been meaning to have you on for a while, and you've got a great channel.
Thank you very much. I'm very gratified to be here.
Oh man, it's great. It's great to sit back and like have some breakfast or something or eat lunch, and I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on in this 65 reverb. Throw this on right now, and yeah, it's great. It's great stuff. So really appreciate us having this cross-pollination of our two channels.
It's always fun to talk about this stuff because the people in my day-to-day real life, they go to sleep, they roll their eyes, they make up excuses to avoid talking to me about amps because I will talk about amps and guitar. And that guy who did that one weird take on that one track on that one album in 1968, people usually go to sleep, but here I think people will like that stuff. So I found my people. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's a great way. I'm sure it's done a wonders for the amount of business you've gotten.
It has been a very good problem in that I have more people wanting me to do the work than I can accept right now.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic starting in March of 2020, parts became very difficult to get, as you know, Dave, and tubes. And so a lot of the stuff that I was working on got pushed back, waiting for things to arrive. Okay, I'm sorry, you need a quad of 6L6s. The only ones I can get right now are really $900. Let's wait a few months and see if that evens out. Or I had a whole bunch of Fender reissues and blues and hot rods that all needed a 47 microfarad axial, and all the MODs weren't on the market yet, and the F&Ts were out of stock from all my vendors for like 4 months, and so those amps had to wait. And then they came in, and I got boxes and boxes of the caps that I've been waiting for. And it meant I had 2 weeks solid of just working on Blues Juniors and hot rods and stuff to get them out the door.
That's enough to make you want to jump out a bridge.
Yeah, well, it's not fun. There are days it can be like changing a tire for a living. But the thing I have to remember is that, I've got a 64 AC4.
Yeah.
I've got a current production 68 Fender Custom Deluxe Reverb. And I've got a hand-wired AC30 there. Very different price points. To the guy who owns this is just as important as this. This is just as important as that. And I take the same care if it's a 67 Fender or a 2017 because it's someone's trust.
Sure.
But when it's like, okay, I got to slog through all this stuff just to get back to where I should have been 3 months ago, it's a little bit difficult. So I'm not accepting any out of state shipments right now. I hope to within the next month or two and be caught up, just doing local work.
Okay.
And I imagine even just local work has picked up since the channel,
Yeah, actually, people are bringing stuff to Memphis specifically for me. It's kind of strange. I'll call someone to say, hey, you got a Blues Junior. I'd like to cool the bias down so your tubes will last. And he's like, yeah, that's why I brought it to you. I saw your video. And that's pretty gratifying, But I also get, hey, I saw your video on that 65 Super Reverb, so I brought in my 66. And while I treat the Blues Juniors just as seriously, 66 Super Reverb, I'm down.
That's much more fun.
Yeah, especially when it hasn't been sounding right since like 1982, and when you're done, you're like, oh, that's why this amp is famous. That just
Oh.
with a Strat and the neck pickup, it's like, oh, forget about it. It's perfect.
I have
And
a
I love
story.
getting to experience that.
I have a story. It's sort of along. It never sounded right kind of story. So someone brought me a Fender Twin Reverb, blackface Fender Twin Reverb, old one. I forgot the year exactly, but I'm blackface, so somewhere. And he goes, yeah, just I don't know. I'm thinking about selling it. I don't know. Can you make sure it's like kind of working and this and that? I'm like, sure. And I turn it on, and there's this hum. I go, that's interesting. So obviously, look at the filter caps and this and that. And I notice in the filter cap compartment, there's a couple extra caps in there with another resistor and some junk. I don't remember exactly. And I'm like, well, that's not stock, so that's got to come out. Why the hell was that in there even? And put it all to stock, put new filter caps in, and it's humming still. Same hum. I'm like, poking around, obviously look for all the normal things, a bad tube, this, that. No. Nothing. Poking around. And this went on for a long time. And then finally, I realize that the choke is dead shorted right across it. Never seen it before in an old Fender, ever. But the choke was dead shorted across it. Tacked in another choke. Oh, look, it's quiet.
It happens, but it happens so rarely that that's when you go down the rabbit hole.
It's not something, but this is an interesting topic because when you're attacking, you're repairing a lot of things, or working on a lot of amps for a long period of time. Stuff comes up over your lifespan of how long you've been doing this, and it's just like mental note in your head that's back there.
Right.
Oh, I ran into that before. If you run into the similar problem, hey, let me just double check that, and let me do that. Really, I mean, really being a tech or being probably anything, even an auto mechanic or anything, it's about the experience. How long you've been doing this.
You've already chased your tail on that same problem. So the next time it's a 30-minute fix. And you look like a genius because you were so stupid 15 years before, but you were smart enough to remember it or write it down.
Exactly.
Sometimes, I'm not saying this to be egotistical, but I've been active on a lot of web forums for the past 15 to 20 years. I was on Usenet before. Sometimes I'll run into a problem and I'll Google it and I'll find a note from past me telling present me what the fix was. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's great.
I also see stuff from you, Dave, a lot, but back
I probably forgot half the stuff I've said too.
Yeah.
Over time, I'm like, so I gave a spec of something out to someone or something, and it's just like I don't remember even what I told them, or I don't even remember what the spec was now, because I didn't write it down, of course.
Yeah. Well, I have sometimes tons of notebooks that I never open or look back at, but I have them.
Oh yeah, I have a box of a plastic bin full of notebooks that have all sorts of useful information in it. One of these days, maybe I'll go through it and take some pictures of some of the stuff and put it in my Dropbox, so at least I have reference to it.
Yeah. Maybe if I had someone scan it, I'd look through it over on my iPad over coffee someday. But I can barely decipher my own handwriting because usually I was writing the stuff down in the heat of battle. Or it's balanced on top of an amp, which is live, and it's got a spiral thing, so I'm being really careful and working fast to get it out of the way. Maybe that's me. I like to live dangerously.
No, notebooks are my friend always. I always keep notebooks. I don't do it digitally. I just write it in a pad of paper, and I just find that, I don't know, pleasing to me.
That's what I do all day.
That's the only way that my handwriting has stayed functional at all, because that's the only thing I write in my life now.
Oh yeah,
Everything else is digital and my handwriting atrophies. But drawing out schematics.
Right. Your handwriting atrophies. Exactly. Yeah, you forgot how to, you have to go to write something, actually write something like a note to someone or something. And you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Forget the cursive because I can't remember that. So now it's some sort of hybrid between cursive and printing that looks like looks like the page exploded.
My 4th grade teacher would be very disappointed in my handwriting these days. Yeah.
Well, I was a lefty, so I always had horrible handwriting as a
How sinister.
Yes.
That's why all his guitars are backwards.
Yeah. It's not your computer. It's my backwardness.
Dave, do you know Chris Nix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Left-handed. Good friend of mine, and I go to his house and he has all these fantastic guitars, and they're useless to me because they're all upside down and backwards. Mark, you should meet Chris because you guys would be able to swap guitars.
Chris is a great guitar player. Jesus.
He's phenomenal. I don't like playing guitar in front of him, but it's nice to have that excuse. I'm sorry, they're all left-handed. I can't.
Wow. I haven't heard of him. What's this? Chris Nix?
Chris Nix, he's in Nashville.
What was his band that he used to have? He had a band.
He had the Power Triplets, and he was just he's been the touring guy with a lot of country guys. You know, the kind of gig where, all right, Brett Mason did all the solos on the record. You've got 3 days before the first show, and he learns 3 Brett Mason solos. You know, all the Brett Mason solos off an album 3 days later, note for note. But he's also just Jonathan from Tool, the singer, not Tool.
From Korn. Jonathan Davis is guitar player for Jonathan Davis.
He just did a solo project, and Chris was playing guitar for Jonathan Davis.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, if you see this, I'm sorry. I do know the difference between Tool and Korn.
But he's probably not watching.
Well, probably not.
Chris might. So,
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. So how'd you get into this crazy business?
Well, I was an English major, and I was a musician, which meant when my stuff broke, I couldn't afford to have anyone fix it. So, it'd start with like, hey, my DoD chorus doesn't work. Let me open it up, see what's up. And this is in the days of libraries, and I would go and get books on electronics and how circuits are supposed to work, and I'd read them and went and got like a terrible, in retrospect, 20-watt pencil soldering iron from Radio Shack, whatever, and messed that thing up until it worked, kind of, and then had a JC120 and its input jack stopped working, so I started fixing that, and I got more interested in how things worked and trying to put together a studio. I was going to be a music producer. I was going to be a songwriter and a music producer. So I was accumulating, I got an ADAT, and I got all this stuff. I had a distressor. I had Great River mic pre's. I had the whole thing. All this got lost in a divorce later. But I was way into that world. And you got to learn how to solder if you're going to do patch bays. You got to do all your custom wiring stuff and really learn this. I was intrigued. And then I quite sanely got rid of the JC120 and got a Marshall Bluesbreaker reissue and found the suggested mods. What was the guy's name? Dr. Gear, Dr. Tube, Dr. KT66. I can't remember his name. This is 30 years ago. One of the first guys on the internet. But he had suggested mods to make a Bluesbreaker reissue like a real deal. And I ordered all this stuff, and I got crazy expensive, like Japanese resistors from Angela.com. No offense to
when Angela was good?
Yeah, it was really good, but these were all Ryko ohm resistors, way overkill for the purpose. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I did a very good job of connecting the dots, and the amp sounded better. And I got interested in that. Friends said, hey, my amp's messing up. Can you take a look at it? And I had been in IT, actually, in the interim. And to me, computer systems, networks, websites, amplifier circuits, it's all just logical stuff. And if you see the whole system you see it as a whole, well, every little component has its role in the grand scheme. And if this is the behavior, it's got to be this or this test. There it is. And I went down that rabbit hole, and I was mostly doing pedals for a long time, and I was doing pretty well with that. But the company that made my enclosures got bought out by a larger company. They were no longer wanted to take small orders, And then the next company I went with did the same thing, and I was left with having to go to, no offense to China or Afghanistan, not Afghanistan, sorry, Vietnam or Mexico, but much larger quantities, much harder communication. I couldn't get them done locally, and I wasn't making as much money on it. And so I switched to amps, and I've been much happier with that because I don't have to deal with so many supply chain issues.
Was that the pedal that you were making for a while, or was that later?
I had the Talos. I had the 3.14, which is a Big Muff Pi variant. Wanted a Big Muff that sounded the same on Tuesday as it did on Wednesday. And then the Triad was the analog pre from the SED3K, the old Korg unit.
Yeah, wasn't there something?
Guitar.
Wasn't that when, I guess probably the supply problems and stuff? Wasn't that the issue? And then a bunch of people kind of were getting upset that you weren't. I remember.
Well, yeah, those things dovetailed. So there were two crises.
And divorce too, right?
I had a divorce at the same time. I got divorced in the market crash of 2007.
Yeah,
and so I was divorced. I was going through all that turmoil. And all of a sudden I was unemployed from my IT job and I had no money and I had a lot of outstanding orders. And back in the day, I would take a deposit, build the pedal, ship it.
Right.
Business model I would never, ever do again.
Absolutely not.
And I was unable to fill the orders for like a year and a half. Finally, and I was going through a divorce and my credit was not great. I finally got a loan. And with that loan, I bought all the stuff to either refund the people who paid me or send them what they'd ordered. And I did. And everyone got either what they ordered or they got refunded. And I never would take anything, take any money ahead of time, or at least on that scale without contracts again. And I learned a hard lesson. One of the things is
I barely remember this. That's why I asked.
Recessions are frightening.
Yeah.
I divorced.
Yeah, no, I understand. Oh no, I've been divorced, so I understand. But I barely remember that, so that's why I just asked you to refresh that memory, not to drag up things.
That was a big thing. I was persona non grata on the Gear page for a while. People, there was even a web page put up talking about how much I suck. And two of the guys who did that web page were great friends of mine before, and after I made things right, they've been good friends of mine since. So, they were rightfully hurt, but everything snowballed. And
to make those pedals again.
Well, the trouble is, all right, to make them again, I would need to either buy huge quantities of enclosures because they're custom enclosures. It's not like Hammond, or I need to find a company that did pick and place and all that. And I just, that's not been the direction I've been putting my business money into.
Right.
I've been trying to build up the amp business more. I'd like to make more amps. This is one of my custom ones. Yeah. And that one was affected by COVID because the guy who made my faceplates went out of business. I found another guy to make faceplates finally. It uses Mercury. I know what you think about that, Dave. I was good friends with Patrick at Mercury. And Patrick
I was friends with Patrick too. I mean, it's a shame that he passed away. Yeah.
And for the transformers I need, Habor might make some eventually, if I were to custom order them, but they're so backed up. Plastic tone's gone. It's a difficult time to do this. I mean, more better than anyone. You've been able to pull the rabbit out of the hat several times, but each time there's
let me tell you,
wire inside that hat.
The only reason we're able to pull the rabbit out of the hat is because of our business structure and who makes our amplifiers and the amount of money they have. So that's really the only reason we can pull the rabbit out of the hat. In fact, we're probably responsible for making everyone else have shortages of parts.
Well, I know that you were probably a little bit to blame for the tube shortage last year. You weren't. No, Fender orders many more tubes than you do.
Fender might be, so they use more.
You order more tubes than I do, but that's the thing. If there's a fixed amount of stuff available, those with deeper pockets get the stuff, and that's just the reality.
Yeah, the interesting thing about I often run into people that say, well, why don't I never had any problem with these tubes before or this or that. I go, yeah, but you're only buying them for your amp.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to produce thousands of amps. And when you have thousands of amps in the field, I mean, I test, I don't know, 100 amps a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not 100, maybe could be 160 maybe. But every week I'm testing that many amps. I mean, that's, it's a lot of amps in a year.
Yeah, I mean,
when
I'm
you
not doing
put-
it the scale you're doing it at, but I do several hundred a year. People
When-
don't understand sample size.
Yeah, when you put that product out there, then you see all the problems. It's like, oh, guess what? That manufacturer gave us a defective part. Oh joy! It's only in 2,000 amplifiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You tried for that not to happen, but it does happen. It can
Right.
happen.
Mhm.
Absolutely. They can have a bad batch. They could do something weird. Even tube supplies. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, JJ EL34s. We used to use them for a long time. They were great. Then they had crackling problems.
Mm-hmm.
Then they red plated all the time.
That
Then they were good for a while again.
that
and
Fender
then-
behind me, the 6V6S, the JJs, they go
Yeah.
microphonic and combo amps.
Oh,
Every
forget
time.
they can't use them. I mean, it's hard to use
Yeah.
those in combo amps. John Sir and I were
They're
talking
good.
about the same thing.
They're good
tubes.
tubes, but don't use them in a combo.
No, they
Oh.
rattle.
Yeah,
But what are
and
your
I've had problems with
6V6s?
Sorry,
6V6s are extremely limited in what you can use. I mean, there just isn't a lot of choices. At least EL34s, you have quite a variety of choices. Very many Sovtechs of general different kinds, and you have the JJs, and you have some Chinese variants, but a 6v6, it's kind of like, well, you got the EH one, and you got the and you have the JJ one, and well, that's it.
Well, these are the EH, and I've had good luck with them in the Fender combos.
Yeah.
But and I used to like the tongue saws from time to time. They began to have microphonic issues, and like the JJ ECC 83s that everyone uses. I've noticed in the past 2 or 3 years, they lose vacuum much more often than they used to. I'm wondering if they went to a thinner glass. I don't know. I'm not saying that they've cheaped out. No one from JJ sue me. I've just noticed that an awful lot of frosty white JJ ECC 83s all of a sudden in the last 2 years.
Now, I haven't noticed that. We used to use them in our first slots all the time in our amps for microphonics and stuff because, well, they're the lowest microphonic tube, I think. But I have noticed they just kind of up and quit.
That'll happen too.
They just up and it's working one day, and you turn the amp on the next day, and it's not working anymore. And that's just the preamp tube's just dead. It's done.
Yeah,
that happens.
I did a video on that deluxe that'll be up Saturday, Sunday for those on my channel. And in that I said, for right now, the EHs seem to be good this week. Let's see where they're at in 3 months. The JJs may be the best again 6 months from now. We don't know. It's always fun. The tongue saw 12AX7 was really reliable for a long time before they began to get scarce and the prices went crazy. Now we have the embargo. But in the last 6 months of using them, I found that especially in old Fenders with shared cathodes, there was an awful lot of channel bleed with those things that would not be there with anything else. And you wouldn't even hear that in a Marshall unless it,
right. You can't win. It's like, well, what can I use now? Okay, kid, is this going to work? Okay, sure. And when there was a tube shortage, that was a mess for us because let's put it plain and simply. If you don't produce amps, the company goes out of business.
Yeah.
On the scale that the operation is, I mean, there's 80,000 square feet of well, something like that, 70,000 square feet of factory with wood shops and everything else. So, if you're not shipping product, there's a big nut, and it's gonna fail. It's gonna fail quick.
Yeah, I would not do what you do. I'm glad to make these when I can get them
you
up
should be
again.
glad.
but I'm thinking if I can get all my issues sorted out, I'll make 10, 20 of these things for those who really want them. Get my name out there. They'll be good amps, but they're not going to be competing with you or John. No one's going to compete with Fender or Marshall, the big guys. But I'm not looking to say, hey, I'm going to compete with Dave and John. People ask, are you going to make a high gain amp? I'm like, they got that. I don't need to make a high gain amp. Get a Friedman.
No, make your thing that you're into, and which is what
I want to do the
AC30.
ones that don't exist out there. I want to find the niches that no one else has done, because you've got some really good Marshall variants, and if someone doesn't like that, they don't know what a Marshall sounds like. Whatever model you've got your bases covered. John's got quite a few great ones.
Yeah,
that's a wheel that you guys have already perfected. I don't need to reinvent it.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't ever look at any company, though. To me, is like, for me, it's like you create your sound, you create your amp, and Soldano can create their amp, and Egnator can create their amp, and Sir can create their amp, and there's a market for everyone, and let the customer just decide which one they like the best.
And it's different flavors.
I feel no competition. I just feel like more let's all be friends and let's all help each other any way we can, and let the customer decide, because ultimately the customer decides, period. They're going to decide what they like.
I agree with you, and I'm glad to hear you say that. What I typically get is I get a guy who calls and says, I've got 4 Marshalls, and I've got a Friedman, and I've got a Sir, and I've got a VHT, and I've got a this, and I got, but I want something that does this. I have made several very niche custom apps for guys, sometimes chasing the tone on one record, which can be an impossible thing.
Sure.
Because people don't understand about 2-inch 15 IPS tape and U87s 8 feet away,
U87s, 57s, run 21s, this and that, mastering,
or
EQing.
Can you make me sound like Edge? No, I can make an amp that if you ever get recorded in a Giant Castle by Daniel Lanois will sound a lot like that. Yes, but
can you play like Edge?
Right. Have real good timing, real good songs, and then get recorded in a Giant Castle by Daniel Lanois. Good luck.
Yeah,
exactly.
That amp does not sound like that in the room.
Hey, I want to make sure I get to our sponsors before we get deep into the rabbit hole here. So first of all, everybody who's watching, make sure you press subscribe and click the bell. All right. If you have not pressed subscribe, please do that. Yes, do that below or wherever it is.
Or is it over there?
Right? No, wait.
It might be there.
Right? No. All right. There.
And then also check out Sweetwater and the link that we provide. We have an affiliate link. And then also check out fixpedalboards.com. Okay.
Which is someone you should know, Lyle.
I will check them out.
I
wonder what register a complaint with Sweetwater, though, if we have their attention. The last time I ordered something from you, you sent me a bag of Bitter honey. Nobody likes Bitter honey. Cut that shit out.
I like Bitter honey.
I was gonna say I like Bitter.
You're the nobody I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I like Bitter honey. But for a while, I had notes on my account at Sweetwater to only send me the atomic fireballs. And for a long time, they would only send me that. But now I think that note has fallen astray now. And now I've noticed that their little Smarties have shrunken. It's like instead of the full length one, it's like this little miniature version of the little Smarties.
I have to confess, it doesn't matter. I toss the Smarties, on site. So,
what do you? Any of them do you eat? Anything out of the bag?
Yeah. Sometimes there's like a Laffy Taffy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. The trick with the Laffy Taffy is you put it in the freezer, and then it's crystalline. It's fantastic.
Oh, you see, and then you can peel the wrapper off easily.
That's true.
It's a little bit tricky, but you peel it first, Dave.
Oh, okay. Okay.
See, I used to
rabbit
do
holes.
Freezing Charleston shoes.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard Charleston chews in a long time.
I loved those when I was a kid.
I last had one in Charleston. It was chew. It was not as good as I remember.
That's great.
But
All
I
right.
was at a gas station in Charleston. I saw it, and I thought, well, let me try it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love it frozen. Good stuff. Again,
I'm
make
a
sure you
weirdo
guys.
though. I like a Zagnut. So if
Oh, I
anyone
like
at
a
Sweetwater
Zagnut,
wants to send me
You,
Zagnuts,
you also had a comment about coffee that I go the opposite direction on.
how's that?
See, I'm the one that likes the Italian espresso, and you're the one that likes the regular coffee. But
So if I
that's
were
okay.
drinking
We can
espresso,
be
this would be
different.
like a 30-second thing. Just a little, you drink it and you're done.
Yeah, well,
I like
yeah.
the savor. I like the savor. I like it to be a long, enjoyable process, not a stand at the counter, drink the bitter stuff, and leave.
It shouldn't be bitter. But anyway, that's a different story. We can just agree to disagree on this.
On coffee.
Well, when we eventually hang out, we'll find a place that has espresso and coffee, and we'll be fine. So problem solved.
Hey, I want to thank Daryl Bibler. Thank you for the super chat, Daryl. He says he loves Tone Talk. We love you. Thank you. Thanks for the super chat. We got G and Kiko's home studio. Love Tone Talk and Psionic Audio. It'll be interesting to hear the 2-amp guys compare notes. Yep, they've already.
Well, we both said we can't find our notes anymore, so it's gonna be hard to compare.
We forgot.
That's true.
We're kind of old. We start forgetting things.
Yeah. The problem I have is a lot of times I'll have to do a playing demo of an amp like at 10 in the morning, and my hands aren't working yet. My hands are stiff until about noon. It used to be other things, but so.
Yeah, it used to be other things.
I'm just going through the.
Mark didn't even laugh at that.
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention.
Funny.
My bad. I was just watching. I was reading.
Next replay, it was hilarious.
It was good.
Okay. I'm sorry, Lyle. My bad. I was just reading. I'm going through the chats to see if there's anything I missed here that is worthy of asking. Like John Sims, where is Lyle from? He doesn't seem to have a Tennessee accent.
That is because I'm not from Tennessee. I'm from Jonesboro, Arkansas. Very different. From Jonesboro, Arkansas. Now, I grew up doing theater and being very aware that if you had the Southern accents that I grew up with around in Jonesboro and Memphis, that people in the rest of the world would not take you quite as seriously. So from theater, I decided to do this. And no matter where I go, people don't know where I'm from. They just know I'm not from there. And it works out really well. I can turn it on if you want. I'll use it around town sometimes if I need to get a good deal on something. But it's not how I prefer to speak. Because when I talk like this, everyone assumes my IQ just drops. So I do the NPR thing.
So it's more like the James Earl Jones kind of.
It's funny.
I got called that last week.
Deep talking. I can't even talk that deep.
No.
If I were to put a compressor on this is just raw. But if I were to put a compressor on this and a little bit of EQ,
yeah,
exactly.
You could do radio. There's no doubt about it.
I have the face for it. I've been told. So I'm not sure that there are that many gigs for it. But if anyone out there is watching, I'd love to do radio, and I'd be glad to do voiceover work. So hire me.
No, you're
unemployed actor.
Yeah. Movie trailers.
Yeah, exactly. I was just talking to my wife about. You remember the Seinfeld episode where Kramer? Do you watch Seinfeld, guys?
We were watching it
I have,
tonight over dinner. Yeah,
where Kramer is doing the movie phone. Welcome to movie phone. Press 1 if you know. That crack. That was so fucking funny. So all right. Anyway, let's go to another super chat. We've got Dale Antoniuk. Don't know if I said that right, but hi Dave, thanks for your input on me adding a Marshall stereo mono jack in my Dr. Z cab with two 16 ohm speakers. Works perfect. Cheers.
Yeah, I had to clarify because you were using the Marshall backplate, and then all the labeling is really wrong. Then, if you're using the 16 ohm speakers, you're like, okay, in stereo, you're going to have 16 ohm each speaker. In mono, use the wait, what did I tell him even? In mono, use the 4 ohm mono input because that's putting the two speakers in parallel. Had to clarify.
Okay,
but he got it. He understood.
Yeah, the stock switching
sometimes
and labeling
people
on
understand. Sometimes I think people are not going to understand, and then they surprise me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I totally get that." Okay,
right.
I'm like, "Great."
Yes,
I don't have to explain it 4 more times.
a lot of times when I'm especially in person explaining impedance and all that to guys, I can see the eyes just start to go way up in the back of their skulls. And,
Oh my god.
you know,
Yeah, I've been doing this for so many years, and not even with amps, with rigs, guitar rigs, right? That I've built for a million years, since I was 18 years old. And sometimes when you start explaining how this works, you just see the eyes roll back into the head, and you're like, oh no. I'm going to have to explain this 5 more times before he
Right.
maybe I think he got it.
well,
But
you know what, the way it works is
now,
if you got the impedance wrong, the tone can't come out. All the tone
yeah.
gets trapped there. We
Yeah,
gotta open it up. Big impedance, take all the tone, all the goodness.
Yeah,
I find myself going a little carny at times, but it's effective.
Fortunately, now we have, our cell phones, and now a consultation with me. It's like, hey, get on your cell phone, record a video of what I'm telling you right now. And they record the video of what I'm showing them how to do. And then I go, you can watch this till you're blue in the face now. and I don't have to explain
totally
it
gonna
to
steal
you
that.
sometimes. Yeah, it works really well. Yeah.
I'll just send them a video of you explaining it. That works great.
Mario Trejo. Hi, Mark and Dave and Lyle.
Hello.
Jason Tong.
Jason, how's your knee?
What's up, Jason?
Yeah, man.
How's your knee replacement?
Oh, he had a knee replacement?
He had a knee replacement.
Ouch.
It's got to hurt a bit, but I imagine he's hobbling around.
He's young for that.
As best he can.
Did he have an accident or something?
I have no idea the backstory, Jason. Do you want to tell us the backstory?
Ask him.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
You should have seen the other guys, what I assumed. Yeah, because
I guess it was coming for a while, but that's all I know. So,
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, hope he's doing good.
Well, he'll be dancing around in no time.
Sure. Christopher Butler. Oh yeah. Hi, Dave, Mark, and Lyle. Have a great show. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's see. I'm just scrolling here, so I don't want to miss anybody. LRM says I enjoy Psionic audio streams.
Thank you. I just started doing that. Now that I've got this rig set up, which I pretty much put together for tonight, it was a big kick in the pants to get all the live stream stuff set up. I'm gonna start doing that once or twice a week as time and subject allows. But I wanted this to be the debut of the higher res well lit thing. So thanks for lighting a fire in my Mark.
Oh, I'm glad I could help. Ben Coombs, what's up, Ben? Thanks for being here. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Let's see as I scroll through here. I know we've got a bunch of super chats, so I want to get to them.
And prepare ASMR.
I've heard that. I don't actually watch ASMR. Is that what it is? I can never remember strings of letters, which is really hard with 6v6, 6L6, 3484, all the things I have to remember for work. And then they keep throwing new acronyms, ASMR, AMSR, whichever it is.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly, I understand the idea of it. I quite enjoy Ted Woodford's acoustic guitar repair videos, and I get that same sense from it. So he does something that I don't do, and he does it really well. and I enjoy the way he explains it.
That's cool. Jonathan Shop. I'm curious what the guys think of cock amps. I've got a Jupiter 20 that seems to punch well above its weight, but I have no idea about the inside. I've heard good things.
You know, I had a couple across my bench before. They were working, but they sounded kind of cool actually. On the couple of the ones I had,
I've had one, and it had a bad. The reverb pot was on the back. The reverb pot got smashed, which is not their fault. I had to pull 3 PCBs to change it out. When I changed it out, I put a wired one in that was chassis mounted. So if that happened again, next guy will do it in 10 minutes. Other than that, and I think it had a bum preamp tube. The amp was built well for the price and sounded really good. It's heavy as hell, but it sounded great.
I thought I remember them sounding pretty good. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Although I haven't had very many, 1 or 2 maybe.
I've had one. So we were talking about sample size earlier. That one is meaningless. I doubt that means any others will have smashed reverb pots automatically. And I might have had the only good one in the world. I don't know. We'll find out.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So I noticed in all the videos, you never get a little deeper in putting an amp on a scope in your videos.
If you look over there over my shoulder, you see the scope.
Yeah, I see a scope. That's why I said this.
Rigged up for this. I use it all the time.
I don't use it, of course.
I don't use it for troubleshooting very often because most of the tube amps really come down to what conditions does a triode need to operate? What conditions does a pento need to operate? And those are pretty easy to do with meters in your ears, and you just measuring voltage. Like, hey, I measured voltage at the plate. I didn't hear it. Something after this is killing the signal. Next plate, I hear it. That's where the problem is. I mostly use the scope for confirming the output wattage. Typically on an amp that I'm not as familiar with, I don't need it for deluxe reverb unless it's a real strange problem. Use them for SVTs. I use them for solid state stuff that comes in.
Sure.
But it's a really boring thing to watch, and to explain what I'm doing with the scope would add 20 minutes to the repair and to the video. And then I'd have to send someone to watch the video 20 times because I already told you in the video what I'm doing.
Yeah. And
someone else is going to be like, oh, I can't believe you're using that scope, or why are you using those probes?
Oh,
it's just it's way in the weeds. And I'm not trying to show how to be an amp tech. I'm trying to show the average interested musician how their amps work.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I just was curious. I'm like, I never see a scope in this thing, and I know you use one because I mean, come on.
There's my scope. There's my signal generator. I've got 2 dummy loads there they can't see.
I did have an amp tech that said, "Yeah, I don't use a scope for my repairs," and I was like, because I was telling him, okay, you have this amp for repair, and here's what I'd like you to do. Please apply, a signal generator into the input of the amp. And check this stage. If you have signal, check this stage. If you have signal, check, And he's like, oh yeah, I don't use a scope for my repairs and this and that. And I'm like going, really? Okay.
I rarely would pick one up for this amp, but I had a high watt DR103, like 120 watt amp. And it had a problem in its output section in the feedback circuit. It had like a 1K instead of a 10K somewhere. I don't remember the details. And I was bringing it up very slowly at lower voltages and scoping as I brought it up. And if I just powered that damn thing on, things would have burned because it was severe oscillation. And so in that situation, you don't get that many DR103s. I don't. I get 1 or 2 a year maybe. So I'm not as familiar with it as I am with a Fender or Marshall or Vox or the common stuff. It's a lot of wattage. It's a lot of volts. Same with an SVT. Yeah, I make sure I cross my T's and dot my I's on all those things because that could have burned out the partridge output transformer.
Yeah, I always like to just look at the scope. I like to look at the scope for oscillations and things like, things like that. That, oh, wait, when I crank it like that, it does something really weird. Okay, wait a minute. Something's not right here.
Yeah, I'll
Just
use
double
an extreme
checking.
things. It eventually will pop up in some video because I'll run into something that only the scope will let me find out what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's just pretty rare, really. And
Yeah.
it gets so in the weeds.
Interesting. We've got a series of questions. One of them we already answered from N. Hi, Lyle. How did you get into AMP Repair? So
We answered.
talked about that. What courses, books, etc., would you recommend for someone to become an AMP tech? And would you consider starting an AMP tech school to train others?
Well, I did answer how I got into it. I would recommend the Jack Darr book, whose name escapes me right now. I would recommend the Radiotron Designer's Manual version 4, which is out there on PDF. Is that how that's the name of it, right? Radiotron Radio Designers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone
Like
here is going to pop it. Someone here is going to know and put it in the comments. The version 4 is out there. You can get it for PDFs for free. Merlin Blanco from valvewizard.co has got a great book on preamp design. As to starting out, I would recommend that you do not start on an amplifier. Even this little deluxe reverb's got 450 volts in it, and it has enough current potentially to kill you, or if you make a mistake, to start a fire. I really recommend starting by building a tube screamer. And we'll start with something real simple, like just a basic fuzz. But a tube screamer, an op amp behaves in most ways the same as a triode. You have feedback, which varies the gain versus how we do it, but the principle is the same. You have voltage coming in, you have voltage coming out. In other instances, you have current coming in, current coming out. You'll get there. But if you can build a tube screamer and learn how the tone stack works and how each gain stage works, and if I change this, this is what the sound is. Now, eventually, you'll get to the point where you can predict, if I were to change this cap from a 47 to 22, I'm talking nanofarads, so 0.047 to 0.022, this is the sound change I should get. And then you do it, and yeah, you get your results. So you get to the point where you have enough experience and knowledge of it that you can be predictive. Then you could say, I'm going to start with a tube screamer, but I'm not going to build a tube screamer. I'm going to build something with that same circuit design and get a different result, because you learned how gain staging works. You learned about half voltage reference points. You've learned about how the tone circuit works, and you build 5, 10 of them. When you can start to finish build a pedal with not a single mistake, just perfect, your soldering comes up at the same time. So by the time you tackle a tube amp, you have good soldering skills. You have good troubleshooting skills, because you've already messed up the first couple pedals you built. You had to figure out why. And you understand more of how the circuit works. And then you take that knowledge and you get a champ kit, because it's the same concepts, only instead of op amps at 9 volts, you're 9, 4.5, and 0 volts. It's a couple of tubes, 350 volts, not a lot to go wrong, real simple stuff. And you say, oh, I like this. I don't like that. But why did they use this value cap here? Oh, let's see. All right. So it's got a 100 nanofarad cap and then a 220K to ground. Oh, that's a RC network. Let me see. Where's the high pass there? What would happen if I changed from 100 nanofarad to 22 nanofarad? Okay. It goes from 7 hertz to 72 hertz. That's how you learn how to do this. As far as taking a course, I would say my buddy Bruce Egnator up in Detroit offers amp building classes once or twice a year. He's a great guy, really knows his stuff. You pay him the money. It's like a 2 or 3 day course. He gives you all the stuff. You build the amp under his supervision. He teaches you what you're doing. And at the end of it, you walk out with a very good Marshall style amp. I think it's 1820 watts that you built.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a 20 watt or a 50 watt, your choice, depending on
how much. It's a very long answer, but it's the real answer is book length. So check out Merlin, check out Radiotron.
There's some London Power books that are quite good too. That have been around for a long time. I mean, there's just some more information,
I would be a little cautious with some of them. I've got one of them, the Ultimate Tone, I think volume 3, and Kevin really knows his stuff. He's got a couple of things in there that I think he probably might have corrected in later editions, and you have to already know when it's a mistake. There's 99% of it is great, but there's one thing where he shows referencing a tone stack and a Marshall to the bootstrapped point of the phase inverter set it to ground with a master volume there on one side of the phase inverter. And if you do that, you actually get problems. You have to use a dual gang pot. So some of the stuff is going to make a beginner think they're making a mistake, and they'll say, well, I did it just like the book. So if Kevin, if you see this, there's a couple of things in that book you might have already revised. But it's a great overview of how current and tube pipes work.
Yeah, there was older books too. Mitchell, remember that book? What was his first name? Something Mitchell, How to Service Your Tube Amp or something.
Yeah, but I don't recall.
I don't recall either. And then there was a Torres book too.
And did
Kendrick book?
Let's say Kendrick.
All this stuff. You know, it's funny. When you're learning, when you first start, you just try to gobble up all these books as much as you can and try to get, even if you don't know what you're reading yet, you try to gobble up these books and learn as much as you physically can from them. And then when you start doing things is when you really learn a lot of stuff. I mean, I have to say for me, you know, Bruce Egnater was more of a mentor to me in learning tube amps. I mean, I was doing rig stuff before I was doing amps, and then slowly, but I always was the guy that had the interest. You know what I mean? Like even growing up as a kid, if I got into something, like I was into BMX bikes when I was a kid, and I knew everything there was to know about that, and I could rip it down and tear it apart and put it back together. I was always mechanically inclined from the time I was a young child. I remember my dad looking at how to build my dad was a surgeon, a specialist, but he couldn't build a wheelbarrow. It just was not, out of it, though. It wasn't, you know, he couldn't do it. So I remember when I was a really young kid, him looking at this wheelbarrow that we got for our house. And he's like, has no idea how this goes together or how to put it together. But he's like a highly educated specialist surgeon. And I was just looking at it as a kid. I'm like, oh, without looking at the directions. Oh, it just goes like this.
Some people have a knack.
That was just something in my head.
I think that I have that knack for that kind of thing, or the knack for systems. Sometimes that's really useful because we'll get an amp in. You probably don't get as many of the lower price amps in for repair now, but no. I mean, I'm still getting them in. I'm a little bit jealous that you can be more choosy, but at the same time, like I said,
more specialized.
As I said at the beginning, I'm still glad to fix an average guy's amp because that's their means of creative expression.
Sure. Absolutely.
But some of the lower price amps, figuring out how they're supposed to be opened up can be really problematic. Like, oh, you got to hold your mouth just right, and if you remove this screw, the whole thing falls apart. So don't remove that screw, but there's no manual for it. So, and who has time?
Well, even not only newer amps, really old combos and different things that were made. You know, old Gibsons and old different.
I've got a Gibson Hawk here.
Weird combos, and you're looking at it and go, how does this come apart? Wait, I have to take the speaker out to get this chassis out? What are you talking about?
You have to pull the baffle and the speaker to get the chassis out.
Just to get the chassis out. Yeah.
There's some Mesa that you had to pull the speaker to change the reverb tank on. I can't remember which one. Mark 1, Mark 2, 80s. I don't recall which one. That was
your favorite.
Well, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to be Lyle hates this brand. I don't want to be Lyle.
No. But it's funny. A long time ago, Bruce Egnater had I wish I still had this. There was a list about Mesas because he did a lot of Mesa service back when he used to do a ton of service, and it was like some of the lines were like, never offer to modify a Mesa. Never assume there's a schematic for the Mesa. Never assume that if there is a schematic that the schematic is right. He had this whole 10 point list.
He's very correct.
He's very correct. Exactly. Especially in the older in the days when he was repairing them,
Right.
You get a schematic where this resistor on this plate resistor for a triode says R22 on the schematic.
Mm-hmm.
The actual amp doesn't say R22, and the print is actually under the component. If you remove the component, you'll see that it says 220K. It might be R22. Or you know that, hey, this, according to the schematic, there's supposed to be a 100K plate resistor on this. It's got some part number that I can't read because all the part numbers are under the components. And then you eventually find the thing, and it's 8 inches away from the triode it's the plate for. And it's under 3 orange drops that are put on top of it, all covered in goop.
Well, you forgot the
one of the solder joints.
The 3 LDRs on top of that.
Right, I got to do that on a Mesa. What was that thing? Studio 22 this weekend. And one of the solder joints for that plate resistor in question is actually being covered by a plastic standoff. Yay! That's your Tuesday when you work on a Mesa.
Yeah, I've heard. John's guitar. He said he played a few Red 7 amps the other day at Axe Palace in Massachusetts. Cool. Yeah, they're good sounding amps, man.
Yeah, awesome.
I have I've got their preamp, actually. One of their few preamps that they have produced, and it sounds killer. And they're good guys. So if you guys get a chance to pick up a Red 7 amp, definitely do it. We got David S. Lyle, glad to see your channel's growing. Subbed when you had less than 500 subs. Best amp tech on YouTube here, folks.
Well, David S., thank you very much. That's very gratifying, and I really appreciate your long-term support. I might be the best amp tech on YouTube, but a lot of the great amp techs are not on YouTube. I am not calling myself the best amp tech on YouTube or otherwise. I don't think about that. I cannot. Just more dangerous to myself than all the negative things or all the positive things. Because for every 10 guys saying that I suck, that I'm an idiot, I'm a moron, I don't know what I'm talking about, it's guys telling me I'm a genius. Those are the guys that would do my head in if I took it too seriously. I fixed toys for grown-ups. Musicians, we'll call them grown-ups. We are glorified toy builders. If we stopped doing this tomorrow, the world would continue. It'd be a quieter, sadder place, but it would continue. So I can't take myself too seriously. And there is no best at anything in the industry. I will say that John Suhr was a mentor to me at a very crucial time in my development about 20 years ago now. Good Lord. And he was very generous with his time and his knowledge. And I've spoken to Dave quite a few times. Same, very generous. And I don't get blasts of egos from those guys when I talk to them. And they're much more accomplished than I am within the industry. So if they're laid back, I have no reason to be anything other than time to make the donuts. That.
Well, no matter how much you're constantly learning, and that's very important.
Unless you're dead.
And that's a very important thing to remember, because you don't know everything, and
working on it.
Yes, you have a certain amount of stuff, but you just constantly learn. You constantly, you should constantly learn. Maybe not everyone, but yeah. I'm always the one on the other end that I have the amp tech calling me and going, yeah, I got one of your amps. I think the power transformer is bad. I'm like, yeah. Really? The minute you say that is you already just threw yourself out the window. I'm like, I guess it's possible, but let me ask you this. And then I start going into it, have you pulled all the secondaries of the power transformer off the board, and have you then turned it on? And do the secondaries measure, roughly what they're supposed to measure?
Yeah.
Oh no, I guess I haven't done that. Okay. Have you
think
checked the high voltage rectifier diodes? Because one of those could be shorted, and well, guess what? It's gonna pop the fuse.
Mm.
I had a 5150, not a 5150. What was the amp I had? I had an amp in a couple weeks back with a short in the power transformer. I don't recall what the amp was.
Oh, I saw the videos for these. Yeah, but you had all sorts of problems with that thing.
Yeah, well, that was a 5150 I had all the problems with, but I had a different with a bad power transformer. And at the start of the video, I'm like, people always say it's going to be a bad transformer. It's almost never a bad power transformer. It was an actual bad power transformer. That's one a year maybe, but it was a classic thing. I disconnected all the secondaries.
Yeah,
infinite current as soon as it was connected to power. No short to chassis, just a shorted coil somewhere. I've had others where it's on the heater supply, 2.5 volts. All right, one side of the heater supply is gone, but it's very, very rare. Yeah, the 5150 was everything going wrong, and everything that was wrong with it created the same symptom. So I had a burnt open screen grid resistor.
Yeah,
had a dead output transformer and a bad output jack, and any one of those things gave low distorted output. Change one, still there.
Wow. Like, what is it now? Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Well, now it's fixed. So
yeah.
And that's why I don't have much hair left.
Jason Wiedner, Dave, I saw in the episode of Malcontents where you said the sound of your 68 plexi is in most everything you build. Wondering what settings on a Runt 20 would get that sound with the Strat.
How new is your Runt 20 is the question. If it's an older Runt 20, it might actually not do it. The newer ones, I changed a couple little things where it probably could do that, but it would be the dirty channel with the. I mean, I run that plexi with everything on 10. It's more of the Van Halen kind of plexi, right? So I run that with everything on 10 with a Variac. And so that was the basis in the tone in my head that I loved. And that kind of, I put in the DNA of all the amps, sort of, because that's just the sound in my head. So that, that's what you kind of voice stuff for. And if it would be probably something like gain on 10, bass on 10, mid on 2, treble on half, presence on 4 or something, maybe roughly. Master to taste, roughly.
Okay.
And remember to plug the guitar in first.
Yeah, and boost switch on.
That'll help. Man, the chat is busy tonight.
Yeah, it's super busy. Do you see show me the beast super chat?
Yes, we will get to that one second.
Mark does rock. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, thank you. Michael Hordowich, thank you. Great show. We got Amp Legend, Dave Freeman, Lyle, Jason Tong. Thank you all. But I'd like to say thank you to Mark for making these shows happen. Without you, there'd be no show. You rock, Mark. Wow. Thank you.
This is true, people.
I'll take
it.
This
is true. Mark does all the legwork, and Mark interfaces with the guest, books the time, tests with the guest. Believe me, he needs some praise with this. So anyone that says otherwise, or you can go, what you can go do.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, and I have a day job too on top of it. So, but I love doing it, and it's really fun. So that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, I just have a 6-day a week, 14-hour a day job.
Yeah,
only 6 days.
I do not work Sundays ever.
Good on you. That's how you know you've made it.
But you got to understand. I wake up at like 6:30 in the morning, and I start answering emails, and because I answer emails. I do all my customer service. I answer emails for the company.
I need to do that more. I'm so behind.
And I wake up at 6:30 in the morning, drink coffee, do that. I take my son to school. I come back. I answer more emails. I do more computer work. Then I get to work at about 11 a.m. I work till 6 p.m. Then I get off. And guess what I go home and do? Maybe eat dinner and then answer some more emails in there. And then I'm kind of done. And then I'll watch some TV and then go sleep and start over again.
Yeah.
So, you know, it
only 14 hours, really? So lazy. I'm playing catch up on a lot of stuff. So
he's an underachiever. He really is.
You know, I always say I have to answer. I have to do the customer service because otherwise someone else does. I have help expediting the customer service, but otherwise someone else does it. Okay, if someone else does it, they don't know the answers to the questions.
That's the problem I have.
And then they have to email. Then they have to email me anyway. And then I have to answer them, and then they're going to pass it on to the customer improperly, unless they just copy and paste.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have to answer it anyway. So I may as well just do it.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Matt Johnson.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, Matt Johnson. No question from Matt, but thank you for the super chat.
Real quick, Matt, are you feeling better? He was under the weather last week. I'm just checking to make sure he's feeling better.
Oh, I hope he is.
I'll be right back.
No problem.
He's feeling $20 better at least.
Yes. David S. Lyle, do you think that axial caps will eventually be discontinued?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a little shot in the arm for amps for a while because MOD, I'm not even sure what company is making those or where they're being made, has just introduced a line of axial caps. And F&T and Marin have expanded. But if you look at Nishikon, you look at Kemet, the companies that traditionally have made a lot of axials, they've all been done. Almost all, you know, the Nishikons are gone. The Kemets, I'm not sure if they're still in production or we're just getting the last remnants in stock at places like Mauser. I mean, you can still get occasionally a Rifa, but the entire market.
Don't you want to use IC?
I love my customers, but you know, the world is going to radial caps. Everything that you're watching this through, every little bit of technology from your computer to your phone to this microphone has got radial caps and SMD caps.
Yeah.
And so we have to use what the industry makes. Leo used axials because that's what was in industry then. Leo used tube rectifiers and chokes because that was the most common thing. Big, expensive resistors were expensive. Diodes were a new thing. Silicone diodes were a new thing. So tube rectifiers, chokes. You know, Marshall used can caps because that's what was available in England. And there's a difference between a Baseman and a J-1045, using what they could get. So, you know, let me grab something real quick to show you one potential workaround to that.
Sure.
Okay, well, he's doing that. Hang on.
It's just you. It's just me. I'm just here. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe and hit the bell. Make sure you do that. All right. There's 344 of you there. I hope you're doing that. And then also check out Sweetwater. Check out our link. If you guys, the holidays are coming up, so I'm sure you're going to be buying gifts and everything like that. Use our link. You know, it's super simple. If you're going to go to Sweetwater, just go to one of our videos, look at the description, click the link, and you know, it doesn't cost anything extra, so it'll help out the channel. I think Dave ran to the restroom, so
it happens to the best of us.
So I'll wait to. We got a huge super chat from somebody.
Well, let me finish this real quick because Dave, this is their news for Dave. This is a hand-wired amp I'm building. It's one of these, and it's all turret board because it's being made in small quantities. And on this turret board, I have radial caps attached to the turrets, so that someone buys this amp, I get hit by a bus, they take it to Dave. He says, "Oh, little Nishikon, 105 degree, 10,000 hour, right there to each turret. No problem. Change that out for you. Done.
Yeah.
But if I were to make this with PCBs, I would use these same radial caps mounted to the PCB the way they're designed to be mounted, because turrets are extremely expensive in comparison to a high quality PCB. But, I could have very easily used a can cap in this, even had a place in it from the chassis manufacturer. I could very easily have used axial caps. And then in 10 years, when no axial caps are on the market and you need to recap this, you'd have a problem. In 10 years, you can still get Nishikon and similar radials. So that's my thought on that whenever possible.
Yeah, and to be fair with IC caps, they're wait, I can wait till he's back.
I'm here. I just had to put that aside.
And to be fair with IC caps, there is a series of IC caps that are 10,000 hour caps.
Yeah, Illinois Capacitor is a huge subsidiary of CDE. CDM.
Yeah.
They have really good caps. Fender is not choosing them.
We have chosen on some of ours to do some IC caps now, but they are the 10,000 hour series, the best that they have, 105 degree caps. And we did that because we ordered a large supply and they could actually deliver it. I don't think there would be problems with that. 10,000 hour cap should be good.
Yeah, I think you'd be fine with those. But the ones that I take out of Fenders are not that. I started going that trash and find the ones I took out of that this morning, and they're 85 degree, and they all have relatively high ESR. And one of them, the 100 microfarad, actually measured 500 picofarad. So I think that might have been a bad cap. What do you think, Dave?
Could be. Yes, I saw that video already. I do watch.
I didn't know that you're watching my videos.
Yes,
I thought you had 16-hour days. Wow.
Oh yeah, but I do like to take little breaks where I fuck off for a minute.
Show me that beast with a huge super chat for us.
Thank you extremely.
Yes,
if we could give you a hug, we would.
I would. I'd buy you a drink.
Wow.
So he wants to know if he puts flux capacitor in his DeLorean, can it make it to Toshi Station and pick up some power converters? Sorry,
he was going to go to Toshi Station and pick up some power converters. He got it. You do sound smart. Show me that beast.
Yes, he loves a little sister in New Taco. Okay, thanks.
Cool.
Bye. Hey, thank you.
Did you buy one?
He gave you all his money just now.
He gave us all his money. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. That's too much, but
that's just, it's never too much, but it's a substantial donation. So thank you, John DeShane.
Hi, John.
Hope you're doing well. Lyle, you're my second favorite amp guy. I've been looking forward to the show since I discovered you. Really appreciate your honesty. Dave and Lyle, which AC30 or variant do you recommend while I wait for Dave to build his?
Oh, boy.
Dave, you go first.
Personally, a vintage copper top converted top boost AC30 would be my favorite choice. I have one. With a Mark Sampson converted.
Yeah, that is a very good choice for those who want to be able to go buy one that works and gets a good sound out of. Your best bets are either the custom series, the AC30 custom C2X, the X with the blues. Know that with the custom, it's got slightly more gain than the originals because the op-amp circuitry for the loop and all really has a gain factor of 4 instead of unity. So you're getting a little bit of extra crunch out of that amp. And it's not the op-amp clipping. It's not anything that's solid state in the distortion. It just hits the phase inverter a little bit harder than the originals. Or the hand-wired series, which is closer to the originals, costs a lot more, but it's way over filtered. And some of the ceramic disc caps in there are really brittle sounding, and the hand wiring is not great, and a lot of tack soldered nonsense that I don't think Dave would let go out the door. I would not either. So you can take a hand wire to a guy like Dave or me. We can make it right for you, but you've got a $1,800 amp that you just spent $400 making great. Or you can find a used AC30 custom C2 for $900 maybe. Get some good tubes in there. Eventually take it to a guy, spend $200 to put it to unity gain if you want. And there's a 330K resistor in series with the normal volume pot on that amp, same as the custom classic. And they were copying the treble channel version, the normal channel from the treble version of the 60s amp. No one likes that. It's really bright. If you take that 330K and jumper it, just solder a wire across it, you get a lot more gain, a lot more life. It's less brittle on the normal channel. It's not going to be the Brian May, Rory Gallagher normal channel, but that thing's really muffled and dead unless you're using a treble booster.
Right. Correct.
Shocked and persuaded. Hey, Lyle, I made a donation in your name to Tone Talk. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dave, I recently bought a small box 50. I love it. Only regret is I didn't get the Wildwood edition.
We can mod it for you.
Ah.
Although, to be honest, you're going to have to wait a couple months because I have far too many amps sitting here that are not getting done, and I need to actually try to get them done because I need to clean the shop basically of stuff before I take more stuff in. And I probably won't be able to do that.
Right.
Vpots Patil, what's up, man?
Hey, man.
Thank you for the super chat. You're always great viewer.
Now that is a different currency.
Yeah.
I just saw that. I don't have my readers on. I was like, wow, you're making some big money tonight. That could be big money or it could be $20. I don't know.
I think but either way,
$20.
Whatever.
Either way,
thank you.
Appreciative.
Yeah. Thank you. Either way.
Not belittling anyone.
Hey guys, I was wondering if you could touch upon the most common ways you see amps getting damaged at home. Dust, leaving it on for hours. Any tips on avoiding amp damage and how to prolong the life of tubes? Good question.
Oh man. To be honest, I want to be honest here. Amps are much more durable than a lot of people think they are. I always I always sort of laugh these days. People bring the amps in the covers and stuff, in the padded covers, and they're all wrapped up nice and neat. And the funny thing is, in the old days, there were no covers. That Marshall or anything looked like it got drugged behind the car. By the time everyone just beat the living crap out of them, and often they still work. I'm not saying that you can't damage them, but they're much more durable than you think. Of course, tubes today maybe aren't quite as durable as maybe some earlier days tubes. Although I have stories of old techs telling me, oh yeah, those Muller tubes that everyone loves. Yeah, they weren't so great. So, what to do? I mean, don't drop it.
Here is a cup of coffee. Here is an amplifier.
Oh yeah, here we go. Don't put the coffee on the amplifier.
Put the coffee or the beer or the Coke, either kind of Coke, any powdery or liquid substance. This is not a
on the amplifier.
Everything Dave just said. Tubes in a healthy amp. Oh my God, I left my amp on for a week. You might have a higher utility bill than otherwise, but the amp should be fine. It's not going to be passing any signal. Make sure. I have a video on Fender reissue series, but it applies to all. When you get a new amp, make sure all the nuts are tight. Make sure that the screws holding the handle in place are tight, especially if you have a Marshall or some other thing with the chassis on the bottom. Twice a year, take it outside and blow it out. Get all the dust out, because that stuff will get down the tube sockets. Nothing heroic. Don't spill anything on it. But if you leave it on overnight and it doesn't work the next day, you had some other problem that was revealed by that. It did not cause the problem. It would have happened to you on your next gig. So be glad that it happened at home the next day. I have a video up, Blues Junior left on overnight, because that was what the client thought the root cause was. And it's got like 50,000 views. People love Blues Junior videos for some reason. And in the video, I thought I was very clear in saying the problem is not that the amp was left on overnight. The problem was it had a damaged traces on the power tube board, because the damn thing was biased too hot, gets too hot, had no dissipation. It would have happened on a gig. It would have happened the next week. It happened the next day after being left on overnight because it had a problem. And half the people don't watch the videos. They see the title, and I get people saying, "You idiot, leaving the amp on overnight won't hurt it." I'm like, I know.
It's my clickbait title. My
clickbait title. Sorry.
Exactly.
Well, that clickbait title, got me 50K. So,
Exactly.
sorry, not sorry. But once you got past the clickbait, I gave you real information. I don't do clickbait very often, but you got to figure out how to get the algorithm to work.
Yeah.
Well, Dave and I just
we were just had this discussion.
Yeah, we were just talking about it this week. We're going to be doing more enticing titles for our videos, because it seems to work and get more get more views.
My wife teaches graphic design and marketing. I listen to her.
Yeah.
Well, video tomorrow, and it says, "Will this amp get you laid?" And you press play, and I'll just say, no, not at all.
Yeah, but the titles, the titles. I mean, I'm just as guilty. You're on YouTube and you see a title and you're like, oh, click,
Right?
Even if it's something dumb,
And sometimes you're and you're like, oh, God.
whatever the title was. A topless in the South Pacific. Oh, click. Yeah, there's no topless. Convertible. There's no topless. Sorry. But you want to click on
title my videos things like potential failures of an unbypassed cathode and a reverb driver from a 1976 Fender. No one would watch that. But if I'll say, did CBS try to kill this amp? I haven't done anything that gross yet.
Yeah.
But, a little towards that gets the attention, and then you give them the real content, as opposed to, why did this Star Wars character do this? The stuff that I could probably make a lot more money talking about Star Wars and Tashi Station on YouTube than I amps. But,
Patrick Miller. What's up, man? Thank you for the super chat. Regarding album sound versus bedroom, usually less gain with extreme volume. Articulation with harmonics and sustain. Impossible to sound like Gilmour cranking the distortion on a big muff on a quiet amp.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, more and more over the years, you learn. I mean, I've been around studios and studio musicians and other artists for years, and the sounds they're using aren't as gainy as you think they are. Not even close.
Right.
I mean, it's like there's volume involved. Maybe not ear-splitting volume, but there's volume involved. And the amp is distorting, but it's not hyper gainy at all. Because with hyper gain comes compression.
Mm-hmm.
And with compression comes less power and less punch. And I mean, I have a high watt that so I have a high watt PA head, right? So for fun, originally I had already converted it to like a DR504 spec high watt. Mm-hmm. But I gave it, actually I had someone do that for me because I was lazy. The thing you realize is that doing stuff for yourself, you never get it done.
I don't actually own an amp right now.
A great tech friend of mine in Las Vegas, Carl Popik. I don't know if you know Carl.
I know of him.
He's a great tech, and he sent me his Soldano preamp. He goes, "Can you modify this for me?" I'm like, "Sure, but he goes, "Yeah, but I'll never do it." can I just pay you to do it? And I took the same. I had this PA head, and I'm like, hey, my PC board designer guy that I use, and it's a good friend of mine. I said, hey, can you make it this for me? I'll just pay you for it because I just won't get it done.
Right.
So he did it, and then brought back, and I'm like, that's cool. But you know what? I probably want a 103 spec. Of course, I didn't want to change it, and I knew Stevie Fryette loves high watts, so I gave it to him, and I go, change it to your favorite DR103 spec, whatever that is, because there was lots of different specs over the years. And he goes, okay, sure. And he put it on his show, and he did something with it. And I got this amp back at my shop, and I plugged it in, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. It was just so percussive and loud and like clean, but still distorted, but powerful. You just smacked a chord, and it just, the speakers would just pop out of the cabinet almost, you know? And even Pete Thorne came and listened to it, and he was like, oh man, that's so good. Now I want one.
Oh wow.
And you know, it's like, but there's not a lot of distortion. There's distortion, but it's just powerful. It's percussive. It has wallop, however you want to describe it. It has this concussion-like effect, you know, especially at a good volume. And that's the thing you learn over the years, is like, you don't want a lot of gain. In fact, play with as little gain as you could possibly play, because you will get a bigger, better sound.
Especially recording.
Yeah.
It's I agree with
multiple tracks, you know, and it's almost like I've even talked to a bunch of recording engineers about this too. And like a lot of times they'll be like, they'll take the customer and they'll turn the gain down till it's almost really uncomfortable for them to play it. And that's how they record it. Because in the end, it sounds like the best guitar sound you've ever heard. You know, the stuff from Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and stuff, there's not a lot of gain there, but it's a huge, powerful guitar sound. You know?
It's true.
Well, yeah, absolutely. The other thing I would add to that, I'm not arguing at all, that's God's honest truth, is that when you really listen to those great albums, not so much like Back in Black, because that's pretty much just Malcolm over here, Angus over here, balls out, really clean, really loud Marshalls. But Gilmour, I'm a huge fan of Gilmour. Hendrix, Zeppelin, a lot of times our memory of the sound on the record is not what the sound on the record is. You know, if you hear them Gilmour live, especially in the last 20 years with DVD releases, it's a big, beautiful sound. If you really listen to the guitar sound on, say, Breathe, it doesn't take, let me try to do this in what the camera sees. It's not taking up this much of the audio frequency range. It's taking up this much of the audio frequency range because there's keyboards and there's bass. And as a result, you hear that, and it's crystalline and it's beautiful. By itself, it's kind of tinny and small. Page did that a lot. Hendrix Little Wing doesn't sound that awesome. The playing is, and the way the snare drum sympathetically rings out with that guitar part makes it. Same for Wind Cries Mary. But if people think Hendrix's recording of Little Wing sounded like Stevie's recording of Little Wing, which was much more full frequency response, or, you know, really beautiful sound on that, the actual Hendrix recording is kind of small. It's like middle pickup on a Strat into a basement set, pretty clean, and it's real MIDI. But it sits with everything else because Noel didn't have
track properly.
Yeah. And Mitch always had ride cymbals, and the whole thing just fills out into the spacious wash with reverb and echo.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. No, I totally understand. Yeah. But yeah. Well, you gotta, how does the guitar fit in with the bass? You know, that's the thing. They not supposed to overlap.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't, that's.
Pages
if you heard
was the
isolated track, many isolated tracks of guitar, if you and there's a lot of them out there. If you listen to them, they're just like, wow, that sounds like shit.
Right.
But in the track, it sounds amazing. I mean, there's some really cool Pete Townsend isolated tracks on YouTube you can listen to. And when you listen to the guitar sound and stuff, you're like, God, it's awful.
You know what?
But in the song, it's unbelievably great.
Like, Who Are You?
Yeah.
Where there's a few parts in there where you just hear it and you're just like, oh, that does not sound as great as it sounds.
The isolated tracks, you mean?
Like, the isolated track. Yeah.
Isolated track.
Dave, I think I'm going to date us both. Do you remember about 25 years ago when the Zeppelin remastered box set came out?
Yeah.
And within the engineering and industry, there were DAT tapes being passed around. It was just 1 or 2 tracks from that. Did you get that with the Heartbreaker solo?
Yes, I think I did. I think I heard that.
Yeah, the Heartbreaker solo had 2 tracks. One was what was the mic on the guitar amp, and one was the mono mics mixed from what were on the drums. If you listen to what Jimmy Page's amp sounded like in that room, it sounded like someone stepping on a chicken in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
But once those room mics from the drums got added from 30 feet away and it was compressed, oh my God, that's Heartbreaker. That's the sound. And so a lot of guys chasing these famous sounds, say Van Halen 2, you're chasing a moment in time.
Yeah.
That happened once. And that's what makes it so magic. Van Halen never sounded like that again.
Well,
that's the time that you got that sound.
Yeah, that's it. Every record was a moment in time. Van Halen 1 was a moment in time. Same amp. Van Halen 2 was a moment in time. Same amp.
Right.
The next record, Women and Children First, same amp. But they were all recorded a little different. Things were all done a little different on all of them. And hence, they sound different.
Right.
On record, though, I'll say the Van Halen
that day. He had
on record
breakfast. Who knows?
Best record, Van Halen 2, personally. I think it's the most natural sounding record, and everything on the record sounds good. The drums, the bass, everything.
See, I think I probably would. I would go for Fair Warning. That's
not everything. I think the guitar sound is wilder and more out of control on Van Halen 2 than it is on Fair Warning. Fair Warning is a more, that's like I think at that point in time he switched to a JB pickup and has a more mid-range voice, and
yes, I agree with that.
It's more kind of pulled in, and it's not as like raw sounding. I think the most natural and raw sounding was Van Halen 2. But I also like 1984.
I was going to say
that is raw sounding too, but cleaner.
Second one. Yeah.
If
we're going to say one of you is right.
But not to say that Fair Warning wasn't great, but it's different.
Yeah, agreed.
I wish my buddy Steve Selvage was here, because he would be all over this. That is his jam, Van Halen, that period. I think he would say Fair Warning, though.
Well, Ed was a beautiful man, loved him. So,
yeah,
he did a lot of work with him. So, he was cool.
What a dream to do that. Yeah. Lee Tintle, if I'm saying your name right. Thank you. Lee. Lyle, I will gladly prepay for an Excalibur 15. I don't care about the graphics, but I understand why you do. I want one of your amps. Fantastic exchange in this chat. Comical and informative. A+. Oh, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you should buy his amp.
If you see at the beginning, the prepaid thing bit me in the butt 15, 20 years ago. I'm not doing that.
Not doing that.
But when I get the faceplate supplier straightened out, when I get new pricing on transformers, and I've got to go through and redo the entire bill of materials, because I did that in 2019, and everything has changed and everything has gone up, and I got to find a new source for tubes, because I was going to use the Tube Store 7189s. That's a Russian military spec. Done. So this one exists, and that prototype over there is going to exist. When, not if, but when this goes into production, I've got some announcements to make soon on that. But there's just a lot of stuff to do to make all the monkeys join the circus at the same time. When that happens, I will announce it, and at that point, I'll be able to say, if you order one, this is the deposit. It'll be done 6 weeks later, and that's a better business model. But I'm not going to do anything this far out in advance.
You sorted on chassis?
Yeah, I'm using Mojo Tone for this first round. If I get enough orders, then I'll
You
go
want
to
custom chassis?
I do if I have enough orders. If I know I'm going to have 50 to 100 orders, I'll talk to you about getting some custom chassis.
You don't have to do that many orders.
Well, I'll talk to you after the chat. But for prototyping, Mojo Tone's been great. They're good quality, and I can work around their whole placement. But if I'm do 2 or 3 prototype and then I do a production, as long as it all
let's talk after.
Cool. Thank you.
Tim, that is our sponsor here on the show, is Chapman Sheet Metal Manufacturing, and does all our sheet metal for all of Boutique Amps distribution. And he's a guitar player, and he's a great dude.
I'll be glad to make his acquaintance. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Getting all the monkeys to come together.
Sometimes
it comes down to just a chance thing, and then you find a solution.
And I'll talk to you about a couple other things, but yeah.
Cool. Did Bill Landry ever hook up with Tim?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so he's getting back.
Yes, he did. Yes, I know that he talked to him.
Good.
And I don't know what he ordered or what his outcome is or anything.
Okay.
Makes pedal chassis too.
Jamie Tyson, thank you. Someone recently gave me a bunch of Philips ECG 6CA7s. Visually, they look like the legit EVH approved Sylvania 6CA7s, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Thanks. Love Tone Talk and Psionic. I listen all day like a nerd.
Pretty sure that's what you got.
Thanks, Jamie.
Well,
that's what you got.
I'm going to defer to Dave on this.
Yeah, pretty sure that's what you have, and those are worth a lot of money. So
I would think that someone,
and almost indestructible. I mean, those can be pounded to inches of their life, and they just don't fail. Even used ones that have been pounded for years are still like solid and good. It's generally, I mean, occasionally not, but
Matt Fields, Lyle rules, a rising star of amp videos and one of my favorites. Hey, thank you. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Keep
In addition
watching
to ruling, I take out the trash and I do the laundry and I walk the dog and I go to the grocery store. So, thank you. And
like every other human.
You're a full service, full service.
Scott Brockway, what's up, man? Lyle's videos are invaluable. I agree. They're very cool. Any chance of Lyle talking about the lava flow pedal? Still got mine. Did we talk about that before?
No, not that many people know about it. I'm trying to remember the company, the Lava Cable. I was acquainted with Mark from Lava Cable. This is back in the Huge Rats days, Dave.
Yeah.
And he contacted me wanting to know if I could design a buffer for him because he was doing all these very, very low capacitance cables. And due to, let's just say science, if it's not buffered, they just become microphones. And so with a buffer, you could use it. And I designed what at the time was very good. I would do it a slightly different way now, but it was 30 volts rail to rail. Analog devices, op amps, and so it was a buffer, and you could turn off the buffer if you wanted to. And it was an AB pedal, not just a buffer, but you had a insert loop for the A and an insert loop for the B, and you had an insert before all that. So if you had anything that you wanted to run, you had amp A and amp B. Anything that you wanted to run in both amps, you put in the insert loop. Anything you just wanted on amp B, put in that loop. Anything in, so you could have like chorus and delay on your clean Fender and a wah and a rat on your Marshall. You hit one button on the thing, and so it switches from the Marshall to the Fender, and all of a sudden you already have your chorus and delay on, so you're not tap dancing. A lot of that's been rendered not necessary by all the loops, programmable loopers that are out these days. But 15 years ago, that did not exist really, or very expensive. So this was a way to have a small box, ABY, buffered. The B output used a triad transformer, so unity gain. You could lift the ground, you could invert the polarity in case you had two different amps with the speakers wired differently. You could have your clean effects, your dirty effects, common effects like a tuner or whatever. And I ran into my divorce time, and I got behind making them. And Mark, I think, wanted to kill me, and he was in a long line, and I regret that to this day. And so that went by the wayside. And now it's really not necessary. There are a lot of really good pedal switching formats out there, but there weren't 15, 20 years ago, however long ago that was. So Mark, if you see this, I am sorry. And I learned the hard way from that whole thing, but it was a very, very good sounding buffer and circuit.
Okay. Cool. West Chilton, thank you. It's great to see Lyle and Dave together. This should be a yearly event. You guys are great.
It could be every 6 months even.
Yeah.
Well, we have the same barber. I'm surprised we haven't seen each other before now.
That's funny.
Thanks, Wes.
Let's see. I know we got tons of questions from people. As I scroll down here,
I'll have to bug you in your live chat.
Please do.
I'll answer some really crazy questions.
Jason Tong says a scope will change your life.
Well, it's minty fresh, so yeah,
that's true.
Jason, you might have missed earlier. I actually do have and use a scope, and you can see it dancing when I speak over there.
I can see it.
One
right
of its
there.
many tricks.
A scope will make many other people happy. Scope, that is.
True. True. Matt Fields, thank you. Since Classic Tone shut down a year or so ago, I've been looking for another manufacturer. Does anyone have any thoughts on Pacific Audio Iron? Pacific Audio Iron. I'm not sure what that is.
It's another company.
Pacific Transformers.
Okay.
Pacific Transformers makes good stuff. They've made a lot of stuff over the years for different manufacturers. Top Hat Amps got transformers from Pacific. I know Bad Cat had gotten stuff from Pacific. They're a good manufacturer. They can do any custom iron you need. I mean, really, it's just a question of what the cost is and what they have many different manufacturing arms also. So depending on your quantities, what you're looking to do, and I think they have manufacturing facilities here in Southern California. They have manufacturing facilities in Mexico, and I think they have manufacturing facilities overseas too. So depending on what you're looking to do.
I've not heard anything bad about them. Didn't Soldano used to use those?
No, he either so originally DMI in Seattle or Mercury on some amps, some of the Hot Rod series early on, or there was a time when he couldn't get DMIs and he was using Jackson Engineering in Southern California. That used to exist.
You can't remember everything. Yeah, I just spaced that one. Yeah,
that used to exist, but Jackson Engineering doesn't exist anymore. It's too bad, because actually, when Jackson Engineering was a small, family-owned company, they made some really good transformers early on. Egnator stuff that I was involved with, Jackson Engineering made the transformers for, and they made some really good sounding transformers. And George Lynch, his favorite SLO amps had Jackson transformers, and they sounded a little different and really nice. So but you can't get them anymore, so that's out the window.
Yeah.
So I mean, pretty much today, all you have left, you have Pacific, you have Mercury, you have Habor, and you have Hammond. And to be frank, a lot of the Hammond
Edcore.
Well, there's Edcore, there's some other ones, but I mean, like the major ones that do guitar amp stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly those. There is one other TMI or something that does matchless and stuff, but I've never really liked too much of the ones they do for matchless are good, but I've tried some other things they've done. I didn't like it, and I don't even know if they're still doing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Habor's great. I mean, Mercury has a sound. It's not necessarily for what I like. I've had some Mercury transformers sound great though, so I'm not gonna say that they're not good. I do think they're priced maybe a little excessive.
Well, I have a dealer tier with them, so my price for the Mercury Iron and this is about $20 more than the Hammond equivalents would be, but Hammond doesn't have an equivalent for the model as far. They don't have the output transformer with the 4.8/16 that I need for this, and they don't have they don't have the B plus
16 and 8.
Yeah, they don't have the HT voltage that I want for this. It's a very specific thing in this because this is based on the actual AC15, where the,
I have to say
choke is before the output the output transformer.
Yes, the choke's after the choke. I mean the output transformer is output transformers after the choke.
Yeah, very different response. So it's not a 15 watt AC30.
I agree, and in a 15 watt, that's awesome. I have messed around with a 15 watt recently, playing with before or after the choke and after the choke, and the 15 watts awesome.
Yeah, there's just something.
Juicy quality about it.
It's that clean that on playback sounds like overdrive,
where
every little nuance it wants to clean feedback.
Yeah. But I have to say, a lot of the Hammond replacement transformers that exist now, these days, when they first started doing replacement transformers, I mean, Hammond always had a good history of transformers. I mean, they were well-made transformers in the past. But when they first started doing replacement transformers, there was a couple things that were a little shoddy and a little weird. But nowadays, what they're producing for those replacement transformers for different amplifiers are quite good sounding. I mean, I don't really have a problem with them. I think they sound quite good, and they're made well.
I have no problem with Hammonds if they make a model,
that works.
One thing I try to explain to people is that you want a Marshall sound. Well, I mean, I'm not telling Dave Friedman anything about this, but you're talking like a 7450 watt with a 370 B plus. You're talking
what is that?
203 with 550 volts on the plates, and the transformers change accordingly. And so with some companies, you can say, I want the sound of a 68 versus I want the sound of a 72, and they do that. They have the specs. Other companies, we've got the 50 watt and the 100 watt. Which one do you want?
Yeah,
and,
exactly. That's
more
guys won't care. Yeah. I personally don't think that the low voltage power transformer is ever a good thing.
I like the low voltage 50 watts.
I know. I can't. No, I can't do it.
Well, you don't have to because you've got all those toys, but
it doesn't have the oomph to me. I got it. That's what I always tell people. I mean, I've modified amps for people where they send me this amp that's the 50 watt, that's the low voltage, 380 volts or whatever it is on the plates, and you can boost the preamp voltage up to where it should be, and it gets it better.
Yeah,
it doesn't have that
210s versus 110. Yeah, right there.
It doesn't have the wallop of the at least higher 450 volts or 420 volts or something in there. It doesn't have the wallop that has quite. It's better once you boost the preamp voltages up to where that amp would be,
Well, let me ask you this, Dave, because you're taking you're using the higher voltage stuff and then you're using a variac.
Yes, correct. But
you're
correct.
ending up at a similar place. If you use the variac with a low voltage one, it's really going to be terrible.
I understand. I'm specifically talking about this more for a modded amp than a stock amp.
Okay.
So, but there's more things to the variac than meets the eye. I think actually the reduced heaters with the variac changes. In fact, I know this for a fact because I've experimented with this. It changes how that amp sounds. And part of the magic of the variac is actually the reduced heater. Now, we can argue all day about if that's good for the tubes or not. In my experience, I've run amps on the variac, low voltage, for years, and I've never had a problem with tubes. They didn't end the tubes' life earlier. In fact, if anything, the amps lasted longer with the tubes.
Well, how low are you going on your heater voltage?
90, 90 volts, and the heaters are probably around 5 volts.
Okay, that's not too bad. I've seen some guys where they're like, okay,
well, if you're running it down to 60 volts or something, that's a different, that's a whole different thing. But
I just tell people that if you're going to do that, bias the amp for that, be consistent in it,
which we do,
and know that you're making a choice to get a tone you may be trading off tube life. Same way, if someone wants to gig really loud with an AC30 with a pair of Alnico Blues, great. Just know that Brian May goes on tour with dozens of spare speakers.
Sure.
Because he wants that sound, and that sound is a speaker at its limit.
Yeah, sure.
But that's more extreme than the variac if everything's done right. I've got a variac.
I remember years ago I worked on a Fender Deluxe for Glenn Fry, and Deluxe, not Deluxe Reverb. And he had an Alnico Blue in it. Boy, did that amp sound good.
It's a great combination if it doesn't blow.
It's a 21 amp, and you know, he's pushing that speaker. It never blew. And he was running it up really loud.
The 15 watts is very conservative. I think of the Blue as more of a 20 watt.
And I think it was right on the edge.
25. But I've had Blues die in Deluxe Reverbs, and I've had them last 20 years. When it works, it sounds great. It's very efficient, and
it sounds really good. And you know, the same thing with the greenbacks. I think greenbacks are a 25 watt speaker, but to be honest, they can take a lot of abuse. Generally speaking, in my experience, I don't see greenbacks blow almost ever.
Well, they've got a larger voice coil than some other speakers. Am I correct in that? Yeah, I mean that really helps.
So
you got low wattage, but a pretty chunky voice coil compared to a lot of Jensen's and stuff.
Yeah.
So. Again, traditionally, if it blows up, you just change it out. Do it again.
Yeah, who cares?
Right. You versus you. Speaking of Red 7, Dave, did you ever use the multi-line mixer?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't messed with that. Yeah.
Good to hear. Craig Lavender, so glad you're on the show.
Right back.
Love all the info you share online. I'm sure that's for you, Lyle.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that, man. Is it okay if I'll be right back as well while Dave's stepping out? So
yeah,
go right back. Thank you.
Mark rocks but does it backwards. Yes, I do. And I'm the backbone of Tone Talk. Yep. I don't think Dave would know how to run the show without me. So that's for sure. But make sure you guys, again, all 380 of you, please press subscribe and click the bell. We really appreciate all of you to be subscribers, and this way you'll be able to know when we're going live, when we have shows. I post sometimes in the community, post certain things that are going on, or when our next guest is coming up, or a promo. So check that out. And again, check out Sweetwater. Christmas is coming. So, and then also fixpedalboards.com. All right. This is our little sponsor break. I just want to make sure while we're doing this. We got, let's see, William Bach says, thanks for the quality tips, Lyle.
Hey, William, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or you're welcome. Whatever
Mark
the syntax should be.
Mark gets abandoned for seconds.
Sorry.
Apparently, Mark has the biggest bladder. So,
Yeah.
this is like my fourth cup of coffee. So, I'm doing all right.
Jesus, you
ready.
have a problem, maybe.
Yeah, it means I need another cup of coffee.
That's a
Okay,
problem.
well, there you go. You know, well, yeah, I just been through a few beers, and sorry, I had to go.
Hey, nature calls.
We should do these like timed intermissions in the show. I think maybe we should put up a little video in the interim.
Right, exactly.
Little music, little intermission music,
little
or something.
music.
You know, little music, and then we all just run off, and then people just wait and we come back.
Yeah, with a little timer.
Actually, that might be a good idea.
It would be. Yeah, that'd be funny. Bathroom break, you know. Tobias Ryan, thank you. Love Psionic audio and tone talk. Wondering your thoughts on a Fender DR hand-wired amps. Also, would the Buxom Boost get my Dirty Shirley Mini in the territory of the Little Sisters Bright Switch?
Okay, well, I'll answer the second one real quick.
Yeah, you go first.
Yes, sort of. Sure. I mean, the Buxom Boost, you could probably cut the low end with the tight knob, and then you could probably boost a little. You know, the high end boost in that is a little more in the mid range, so maybe a little mid range, or maybe a little of the treble boost. But yes, you should be able to simulate it perfectly, because the switch in a Little Sister does two things. It adds a cap on the stage that's into the cathode follower of the amp. It adds a 0.68 cap in, so it's adding an upper mid-range sort of little bump and gain, and it shrinks the first coupling cap to a 0022. So shrinks a little of the bass out of the front end. That's what it's doing.
Mm-hmm. And the Fender Deluxe Reverb hand-wired amps. Any thoughts on those?
Do you have any thoughts, Dave?
I mean, I don't think they're a horrible amp, although I just saw that video with that extra cap they add.
I'm not a fan.
I always wondered. I mean, I'm like, why do they add that cap?
I think
it's totally stupid.
That's the standard reissue. I think it's a dumb thing they put in there because they figured people were going to use solid state plug-in rectifiers.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true.
But it's just I don't know if it's true. I do know that
why
it's an added point of failure and it failed.
Couldn't they just put two caps in series? Can they put two caps in series and just make the voltage higher and call it a day?
Well, that's what they did, but why did they choose a 100 volt and a 500 volt and a weird not real balance? You know,
right.
I don't understand why they don't use radials in these things. They should just admit that it's 2022 and a high quality radial costs less than a cheap axial Illinois.
Get rid of
But this guy's asking about the hand wired series, which is a different kettle of fish. I don't like them, and I'll tell you why. But I don't like saying things like this when I don't have an example to back it up. The next one that comes in, I'll do a video on. It's not that they're a bad amp, but for the price they charge, you could buy a 70s Silverface and have the real thing.
Yeah.
The hand wired is a not great PCB disguised as an eyelet board. It's hand wired, and it's got as much.
I just worked on one of these.
It's got as much spaghetti wiring as a 1979, like the nadir of the spaghetti era. So it's not good hand wiring. And those blue molded caps are cheap caps covered in blue plastic that sound nothing like the Blue Ajax. You're paying for cosmetics. And the tremolo is a bias trim that they're marketing as, ooh, so cool, a bias trim. And they call it a 64. 64 Deluxe Reverb would not have had a bias trim. It's an opto
Yeah.
trim. The reason they're doing this is they cannot sell the opto trim LDR in Europe.
Yeah.
So on this series that they ship to Europe, they've got a little card in there that gets there doing solid state stuff because they cannot use the materials in the lamp in the Roach. So for their hand wired 64 custom, they're just doing the BIOS trim like you have in a Princeton, which is fine, but it's not the sound of a deluxe reverb. And really, you can just get a one of many great sounding tremolo pedals these days. You don't have to have that. You can choose between bias, trim, opto, whatever.
And this
so
is
it's marketing.
And this is something I'll bring up. More and more these days with amps. I mean, I have to tell you, these people, hand wiring is not necessarily the way to go.
Amen. And whose hands?
And whose hands? That's the key. Here's the problem with hand wiring, and I hate to say this. The problem with hand wiring is every amp is slightly different because I'm sorry, no wire can lay in the same spot exactly as on every amp, especially if you're doing it in really big production. Number two, generally the parts are much farther away from where the destination than they need to be. Parts closer, better, just better in general. Right to the tube. Parts right off the tube would be the best. People make mistakes, and hand wiring is chock full of problems. It's not a new thing. Hand wiring problems have existed since the dawn of time. I get old Marshalls in where it's like, oh, look, this solder joint's never been soldered. Ever. The wire was wrapped around enough where it worked for at least sort of kind of halfway for all these years, but it's never been soldered. Or, oh, look, the cathode resistor of the first stage of the cathode follower is not 820 ohms. It's 10K. Whoa, that's radically different. That shouldn't have been there. Or, oh, we ran out of parts. Let's use 82K resistors instead of 100K resistors. Oh, we ran out of parts. Let's use, I guess this is a different tangent. Let's use 0.1 caps instead of 0.022 caps across the entire board. What the hell? I've seen that too. And I've seen it on every amp, every kind, Fender, whoever. And I've talked to people that have, used to work at Fender factories, and I talked to Paul Rivera, and Paul Rivera said, oh my God, the line at Fender was horrible. We had all these problems with people hand wiring this stuff, and there's all this stuff. Now I preface this, a well-designed, through-plated, 2-ounce copper, thick PC board is a better design than a hand wired amp.
It can be if the designer is doing it right. And I did a review of your Runt 20 where I said that same thing, and I used yours as an example. I did a review of John Sir's Ombre last week. Made the exact point. The thing that was good about the original layout that Leo and Randall and the guys did in 62 was the space between the components, and that all the components for this triode are separated from all the components for this triode with space between them. And John replicated that in his PCB, and he did some things in the PCB wiring as far as shielding that you can only do with a PCB.
I saw the video.
Be done well. And when it's done well, you get an amp that sounds like a Sir Ombre or your Runt 20. And one of the things I struggle with, and I've come to realize this in the last 2 weeks after talking to Zach Childs of Ask Zach. If you don't know Ask Zach, you need to know that channel, Dave. Is that when you do what we do, you assume that, oh, this is obvious. So I know this, therefore everyone's going to know this. It's like, First you tie your shoes and you go for a run. Well, some people don't know how to tie their shoes. And so I don't always know which steps I need to emphasize. For example, I got a lot of blowback on saying nice things about your Runt 20 because people had not understood the nature of my criticisms of, say, the Fender Reissue series. They thought I was saying PCBs suck, and they thought I was saying you cannot use heater quick connects. What I was trying to say, and I'm going to be making concerted efforts going forward, is that on your amp with quick connects for your heater supply, you have a thick through-hole double-plated 2-ounce copper pour, and you have very short traces from that point to the next point. And everything is, all the traces are wider than the current present. And you're also using EL84s. You do the same thing with a very thin, one-sided, no-ounce copper thing like you have in the Fender.
Different.
And you have tiny little traces that are snaking around each other, and then you're trying to power 6L6s like you get in the Twin or the Super Reverb. Even with the 6V6s and the Deluxe Reverb, those quick connects burn because it's all the current is bottlenecked at that quick connect. And their quick connects are not as high quality as what you use, as what John uses, is what I would use if I were trying to meet European regulations and fuse everything.
Now, what I would say is the 50-watt amp in our Run series, we have had issues here and there with the fuse holders for the heaters.
It's because it's a stupid thing to have to do, and it's not your fault.
I understand, and the fix for it is jumper.
But I want to point out that I'm saying it was a stupid thing for Dave to have to do it. It's not a stupid thing that Dave did.
I understand.
Like I'm saying, trying to get
I totally get that. But the same issues have happened with EVH amps. I've had what happens is the fuse, actually the fuse holder, the contacts of the fuse holder are the issue. And they become oxidized, or they're not gripping the fuse enough, and there's enough current running through it where that becomes an issue. And like EVH amps, all the tubes are, they're not lit anymore. Oh, it's the heater. Okay. You look at the heater fuse. There's one heater fuse in an EVH 100-watt amp. And sure enough, it's not jumping the fuse holder. and I'm like, it's 6.3 volts. Why do we even need these fucking fuses?
We don't. It'll give you false failures.
You could stick your tongue on it and it wouldn't even bother you.
But there's such a current draw when you first power it on that you can blow a fuse because it hits 7 amps when you hit that switch, and then it goes down to 2 amps. It's such a crazy regulation. You have to make sure that's compensated for, but you can do it, but the fuse contacts are the problem. So although I have to say, generally in our Run 50 amps, I've had a few out of thousands have that issue. So generally it works. Generally it's fine. But it's things you learn over time. To everyone at home that Dave is being forced to include heater fuses.
Well, I was. Here's the thing I've learned interesting things about CE and electrical approvals. It depends on the lab you're using. There is no, try to find something that applies directly to tube amplifiers in all the CE stuff that really is just tube amplifiers, and you can't. So it's a lab interpretation of what this means in their documents. And then it's up to the lab how they approve this.
I may be talking to you about that off mic.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because it's from lab to lab, they will tell you different things, and they will pass different things. So, very interesting.
Meanwhile, there are a lot of boutique guys out there trying to compete with you, and they don't know how to wire a power switch safely. So,
yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, switch both wires and the standby switch both wires.
if you can, yeah,
switch
but
it all.
at least don't. If you only got to switch one, don't switch to neutral, and wire the fuse so someone cannot get electrocuted when the thing's being pulled out.
Yeah,
hot on the inside.
AC, fuse, double pull, double throw switch in. Hey, look at that.
Electrical.
Somehow my Siri got triggered. Yeah, it's very interesting with the C approval stuff. It's all kind of bullshit, to be honest. It's just like getting through the bureaucracy of it so you can get a approval to.
Yeah, it's just another.
And then it's like design parameters. So this amp is designed to operate within this temperature range.
Yeah,
you can change.
I'm about to have to invest in a second soldering station so that I can do. If I start doing these, I got to be able to do some with lead free.
Yeah, well, there's pretty good lead free solder. So I have that.
But and then there's the stuff that other companies use. Yeah.
There's we use AIM lead free solder. That's quite good. It flows pretty well.
I'll talk to you about that, but I'm going to get a different soldering station for that, so I don't.
Yeah, we use a Heiko soldering station, AIM lead free solder. It's quite good. It flows well. It's good. It's fine.
One that I've got to figure out how it works.
Yeah, but yeah, well, we can talk about that.
Cool. Mr. Anderson. Yes, did a little experiment with mismatched tubes, plus or minus 10 to 12 MV versus matched tubes. All were Marshall labeled on a 70 JMP. Guess which combo sounded better?
The mismatch ones.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, I'm just guessing.
Well, yeah, as for the Jeopardy setup of the question, the answer is pretty much, yeah.
Probably yes.
You know what? I mean, as long as the tubes aren't grossly mismatched to where they might cause hum in the circuit, or like if you have a tube that's 20 milliamps and the other is 60, that's grossly mismatched. But if you have a tube that's 30 and 40, it's not grossly mismatched. It's probably a little bit more out of spec than maybe I would like, but it's not to say that it won't work. It will work.
If you don't hear hum with it, and one of them doesn't start to red plate, you're fine. You might like the asymmetrical clipping that it's going to give you. You can also get that just by changing phase inverter tubes, because unless you're one of those people being audiophile and getting balanced triodes, you can do all kinds of stuff to chase something, and you change your phase inverter, it throws the entire equation off. It's all a system. In a cathode biased amp, though, which really
they need to be matched.
That's where they need to be matched much more closely. When you have a fixed bias amp, if you don't hear hum, you're fine. In a cathode bias amp, if they're mismatched, one of them is going to say, all this current belongs to me, and then I'm going to die.
And it's going to go, Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Fixed pedal boards. What's up, Tim? Tim, by the way, you emailed me, Tim. I emailed you back, but I never heard back. So I want to make sure you got my emails. So let me know. And
Tim is the chassis company.
Yeah. He said he reached out to you, Lyle.
Tim, I'm so sorry. I've not seen that. If you reached out with anything saying free, it might be in my spam folder, and I apologize. But if it said free or cost or money or some other keywords, it's probably somewhere in my massive spam folder. I will look for it and reply to you. by the way, it says about my website, and I noticed at the beginning of the chat while I was waiting for it to start, that someone linked my website. My website is 12 years out of date. It's still focused on pedals. I have got to get it all changed, and I have not had time. And I used to do web design for a living. It's just how busy I've been. I'm gonna try to make time for it this month. At least put something up saying, "Hey, better thing coming soon," and here's a link to the old pedal information. But Tim, I will find you, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Vinny, what's up, man? Is anyone here waiting for a 5150 paint build from Chris Hubbard by any chance? I paid Chris almost 2 years ago and no updates, and he won't return messages. Long shot, but I thought I would ask. Oh, that sucks, Vinny. That's
don't
not
know.
cool.
I don't even know who he is.
Well, I had actually got my 5150 from him many years ago. That sucks, dude. I hope Chris Hubbard comes through and does not. Well, let's hope he comes through for you, bro. Sorry to hear that. If anybody knows anything about that, please reach out to Vinny. Craig Lavender, any info on Western Electric producing amp tubes in the U.S.?
Zero info, probably not going to happen.
I've heard that they're looking to start a factory. I've heard that it's going to be in Florida.
Well, they have a factory.
If these things happen, I don't know if any of us will be able to afford it. See, I've heard various conflicting rumors. If I can go to Tube Depot or CE, etc., Eurotubes, whatever, and see them listed for sale, that's when I'll worry about it. Magic Tubes, etc. Not trying to play favorites.
Yeah.
And then if there is a U.S. made tube, can any mere mortals afford it?
Yeah, it's going to be super expensive, no doubt.
No doubt.
Jim A 5150. Yes, I didn't butcher your name there. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks, Mark and Dave, as always. I had dealings with
Jimma.
No, he said earlier up above.
Oh, okay.
He said he gave actually how he pronounces his name and wanted to see if I fucked it up. So
okay.
So let's see. I had dealings with Lyle back in 2009. Dave, thanks for always answering my questions while building this rack. You and Bob have been godsends. Oh, cool.
Well, cool. I think I know who you are.
Yeah, sometimes the names, the screen names throw you for a loop.
I might remember you from 2009 if I had your real name, but I don't know a Jima 5150. So I hope everything was good. 2009 was a terrible year for me. Actually, that was right at the beginning of it getting better. Yeah. So maybe I made you happy. I hope so.
Maybe you got the tail end of that.
Yeah.
Tim says, for chassis info, reach out to Roy on the Fixed Pedal Boards website. I'm too scattered.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay.
I can give you all the info, Lyle.
Very cool.
Good for pedal, by the way. Good for pedal chassis too.
My main business is Robert F. Chapman Incorporated. But either way, you'll be directed to Roy. Cool.
All roads lead to Roy.
Yeah. All roads, yes, exactly.
What is the next evolution for Transformers? Is there an evolution?
Evolution?
Well, it's more than meets the eye.
I mean, no. I mean, there's nothing that is going to be developed that can't. I mean, no, there's no new evolution for Transformers.
You got your big ones and you got your toroids, and they all have issues.
Rob Cunningham from Daddario.
Daddario. Yeah,
hey, Rob, let me say that properly.
Daddario.
How are you, Rob? I have your strings. I haven't tried them. I'm a bad boy.
I tried them. I used the
I'm about to, and I gave a set to Pete Thorne.
I used the coated ones, and they were cool.
Which strings are these, Dave? I assume you've used
Daddario.
the
Well, we had Rob from Daddario on, and we were talking about strings, and we were talking about all sorts of stuff. and it was very informative, and it was a great show.
Yep.
And we were like, oh wait, I want to try those pure nickel strings. I want to try that. I want to try the old school, stuff. And I want to try that one too. So he sent us a little care package.
Nice.
And of course, I don't restring my guitars very much around the shop. So, of course, I haven't gotten to restringing them, but I have them literally sitting in a drawer right here, ready to restring. So eventually I will try them, but I'm thinking I will love the pure nickels.
I've got the
pure nickels are great.
10 to 52 on this.
Yeah.
And on the SG, I've got the Kurt Mangan pure nickel round cores, and I'm still living with it because I came to that from the XL 10 to 46. I need to try the D'Addario. I'm finding that the regular XLs and the NYXLs, at least on the Kurt Mangans, the old school nickel have a lot more tension. I have to bend a lot harder to get the same pitch. I can't bend as far. I can bend farther on these 11 to 52 NYXLs than I can.
I like NYXLs. Those are good string.
You should try.
It's interesting. I have a love-hate. I'll be quite frank. I have a love-hate thing with D'Addario. So I like NYXL strings. I don't like the standard strings that much, although they're a good string. And I have high hopes for the pure nickel, which I have yet to try. So, but the NYXLs I do like. I definitely do like.
Get the balance.
Definitely feel
and the balance. I have the balance tension also here to try. I'm going to do that. And
that's where it makes it easier for bending.
So I'm totally going to try all these, and I'm going to be probably happy with it. Probably the nickel ones. Probably.
I put the pure nickel ones on a couple of the Van Halen guitars, and it does the trick.
It's the thing. It's what I grew up with, so I'm going to like the pure nickel.
Yeah.
Well, I like the sound really well with the Mangans, and I probably would like with the D'Addario as well. The feel is taking some adjustment, and I may end up liking it a lot. It's definitely more of a fight. In general, though, I find that Ernie Ball, D'Addario, electric, as long as the gauge is what you're used to and the intonation is fine, a good player is going to sound fine. Acoustic, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Shocked and persuaded. Thank you. Do you think there's a tonal advantage to a quartet power section versus duet, like 4 6v6s versus 2 6L6s?
Headroom?
Headroom. There's also a transductance, if that's the term I'm looking for. The GM is very different, even though on paper it should be the same-ish. There's a big feel difference between a quartet and a pair.
Also, how is the rectification done? So, like, is it a full wave bridge rectifier? Is it a half wave bridge rectifier? All that will actually change the tone also.
I would say that there's very little reason to use a quad of EL34s versus a pair of 6V6s, or 6L6s or 34s. It makes more sense to go to a pair of the larger tubes than a quad of 6V6s. Economically, it costs less. It takes less space.
That's true. Crown Jewel Music Gear Review. Oh, cool. Have to check out your channel. Hey, y'all. Excited for this one. I watch all of Lyle's videos, all of which are super useful. Love the recent matchless and top hat videos. Thanks.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man. I was really, really impressed with that top hat. I know that the owner of Top Hat, whose name escapes me at the moment,
Brian Gearhard.
Yeah, Brian took exception to my comment on the placement and behavior of the master volume. He has a pre-phase inverter master volume. I thought that amp cleaned up too much at lower volumes. Other than that, it's a fantastically well-built, great sounding amp. I didn't have any issues with it. I think I didn't like the taper of one of the pots too, but I mentioned these things for accuracy's sake, not to say it's great except for these two things that suck. That's not what my thing is. So, but I'm like, if I were recommending this to a client, I'd say, hey, this sounds great. It's built really well. Make sure you like the taper of this pot. Make sure you like the way the master volume behaves, at lower volumes. Some guys do. So the owner took exception with that. I thought it was a very positive review.
So when you say he took exception to it, like what? He reached out to you and gave
he
you crap?
didn't like that I criticized the master volume or the taper. He said, that's what in testing, that's what everyone prefers. And the trouble, from my perspective, is that I'm not as well known in the industry. So when the guy from Top Hat or the guy from Matchless argues with me, there's a certain level of people who are going to say, oh, this guy must be wrong because the larger fish is saying something. And then do I play the game of trying to have a YouTube battle with a larger fish do I come across as clickbaity? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick with what I said. I don't like the way the stamp cleans up at lower master volume settings. I don't find it as useful. It's much easier to implement a post-phase inverter. I didn't like the taper of this pot. I said that was subjective in the review. I just have to live with that. And if someone replies and I'm not going to play the game, because it's a zero-sum game. If I were to go out and criticize one of Dave's amps, for instance, and get known as the guy who picks fights with amp builders, and then just had this video back and forth, blah 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 on this, that's not a game I want to play. That's not who I want to be. But at the same time, if a owner, a buyer is choosing between a deluxe reverb and the Top Hat, and they're both $1,600, and you want a clean sound that'll also do like a Tom Petty thing, the Top Hat kills the deluxe reverb issue for about the same price. You're getting a lot more amp, but the master volume's not as great as you might expect it to be. Make sure you like it. I put that out there.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, you're in a tough position, Yeah, you're giving an opinion on someone's design, and that's always a tough position. And what someone deems as better, you might not deem as better, right?
Well, I try to be very clear when it's a subjective preference of me versus an objective measurement. Origin 20 does not behave like a plexi. It doesn't sound like a plexi, and they use a 2-watt dropping resistor when they have 3 watts on it, on the damn thing, and it burns. People who own it think I'm horrible because I'm telling them that their amp does not sound like the 69 plexi. And
it's
then
absolutely nothing.
I do a
like
video, which is my third video on the amp, and in the video I play a basic open A chord and say this just isn't doing it. They think I can't play. They think I've never heard a Marshall. And I don't want to spend all my time laying it out on the table with a tape measure every video.
Here's the funny
but at
thing.
the same time, if I don't like the volume, the taper on a tone pot, if I don't like the way the master volume on a Top Hat is done, I say that's subjective. The amp catching on fire, that's an objective thing that we can measure and predict. Ohm exists.
Here's the funny thing about that. So the Marshall 20-watt series, the Studio Vintage,
that's a much better amp.
But it uses the same construction, the same transformers. It's kind of interesting. That amp, so one amp's made in Asia, and one amp says made in the UK, yet the circuit board, the transformers, and everything are actually exactly the same transformers. Maybe it is put together in the UK. I'm not sure.
Well, but, I'm going to get a Studio Vintage next weekend to feature the way I've featured John's amp and your amp, because people have a lot of interest in it.
Studio Vintage is actually really well made. It's really well made. I mean, I don't know if you've been in it, but
I've been in one, but it was a long time ago. There's not a lot of them in town.
It's really quite well made. I mean, it's got really it's got a nice circuit board. It's got a beefy mounts for all the standoffs and everything. Really beefy screws and really beefy, like, and the front circuit board's mounted nicely, and it's good interconnects, and it's a really high quality 20-watt plexi, so to speak. There's some things that I've done to them over time now for people that they have a couple values that are a little weird that they use, and there may be a little harsh on the top end, and there's a little trick that you can do to them to kind of roll that off a little bit, so it's a little more like a vintage plexi that I've done for people. But it comes out great. The Studio Vintage, the plexi thing, so it comes out great if you just do a couple little tiny things to it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with how it's done. That's
how's the 800?
The 800 also it's literally the same build. It's literally the same build with some circuit changes.
Well, so were the 87s and the 2204s.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the same build quality. It's the same everything. It's built really well. For what it is, I don't really perceive any problems with what they have going on with it. It's cathode biased EL84 or EL34, sorry. Amp. High and low power is cool. The board, a lot of it's a well done board. Actually, it's better than, it's not a one-sided board. It's a plated through board. Wow, mental block. Sorry.
It's made of cheese.
Ground plane. Done nice. Big heavy duty connectors that connect up to the pot board. All shielded wire up to the pot board. Like they for a budget. Well, it's not really a budget amp.
How about
but for
2000?
It's almost $2,000.
They did a good job. I have to say they did a good job. I don't really have any issues with it.
I had one come in. I don't remember it. That's when I get one to feature and say, "Hey, this is how this is."
Yeah, built. I mean, there's not really an issue. It sounds really good, actually, and if you do a couple minor changes to it, it can really sound great. And
so you're saying it's not a class 5? Okay, good.
No, it's definitely not a class 5. It's definitely not a Origin 50.
Yeah,
right.
Or something, or an Origin 20. Origin 20 is just like a couple gain stages and EQ, and it's no.
Yeah.
You can make those sound good if you repurpose some of the stuff.
It's a lot of money to spend. I that gets to the point where I'd have to be honest with people. Wouldn't you rather spend that money on the amp you want to begin with? There are amps that are worth.
Well, I mean, like I'll do an Origin 20 mod for $300-400, and they bought it for almost nothing. Yeah, well, it's so much cheaper than one of my amps.
Yeah, but they go new for like $700. If people are buying that, then that $300-400.
No, if you're buying that, it's not really.
Yeah,
agreed. If you're getting it used,
but here's the funny thing. So the Origin 20 or 50 is not that different from the Studio Vintage. Studio Vintage is like $1,800 now, and the transformers are the same.
Interesting.
Well, sometimes it's just.
So I don't know. I really don't know how it's made or where it's made, but I actually do know the head box comes from England, because you can see it in the Tolexing. It's different than the one that's from Asia. And I mean, I don't know. It's not that much different, to be honest.
Right. Leonard Rodriguez.
Torque is different.
Can you mod a run 20 on a dirt channel to have a low gain open plexi tone and the boosted mode all the way to HBE clean?
Not
channel?
HBE, no.
Okay. Let's see, it's just not possible.
Didn't you get one of your pedals in front of it?
That's a whole nother. Yeah, you can put another pedal in front of it. It just, there's not enough gain stages in the amp, and there's no room to put another tube in it for you. So,
Right.
and you don't need that much gain. Let's just talk to you about that. Turn the gain back, please.
Yep. Doug Morrisoli, thank you for the super chat. Thanks, guys, for getting Lyle on. Discovered his channel in the pandemic. His Vox AC30 reissue resources led me to get a C2X with a Alnico Blues. What's a C2X?
It's the custom series, and the 2 is the 2x12, and the X means it has the Alnico Blues.
Oh, okay. Very happy with since I can't afford a vintage. Thanks, Lyle. Oh, that's very cool.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for finding me and putting up with my and the videos starting at the beginning of the pandemic were pretty low quality. I've really tried to step up. So thanks for putting up with a lot of
and now he
really
has the lighting.
Yeah.
Now
so
you
much,
got the lighting.
So much of this whole thing is just lighting.
It is.
And the lighting is everything. That's, by the way, I'm going to hit you up.
Yeah, Mark.
I know. Look at my shit lighting.
I'm going to send you those links we talked about yesterday.
Yes, please do, because I need it.
You look like a white ghost.
I know my lighting is horrible. It's horrible. Scott Brockway, Dave, which AIM or AIM solder exactly for lead free? Lyle, Dave, who makes good wire with jacketing?
I don't have it sitting in front of me, but it's like AIM. Shoot, I don't have it sitting in front of me right now.
Email Dave.
Email me. I'll tell you exactly.
And Lyle, Dave, who makes good wire with jacketing that doesn't melt?
Oh, man. So I use wire from a company that you guys aren't going to be able to buy from. So it's a pretend what am I going to say here? You have a coffee problem, Lyle.
No, I have a coffee solution. It's my lovely wife just brought me the 4th or 5th cup. Now, I want to say it's not because she's my wife. She's a college professor. She's just being very kind because this is a special thing that we don't do very often. So she's being very nice. I'll have to bring her some when she's doing her next videos thing. I'll bring her some cannoli or something.
Oh, there you go. We use some stuff that's called top coat wire. That's pre-tinned. Really easy to solder into stuff. But
if you're not doing it the quantities that Dave's doing it, and you're not doing it the quantities even that I'm doing it, you can get good top coat Marshall style wire from
what's the company?
Valve Storm.
You can get it from Valve Storm, sure, but there's another company too you can get it from. Shoot,
Hoffman might have it.
Valve Storm would be great. Valve Storm's a good small company that has stuff.
I get the top coat Marshall style from Valve Storm.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the stuff that really won't melt, I get various gauges of Teflon coated 22 and 20 for the most part. You can get silver stranded or 10 stranded. Both good. Tube Depot carries a good supply of that. So if you don't need 10 100-foot rolls, you can buy 10 feet of whatever color you need at a good price, and it's high quality stuff. Doug Hoffman's got some good stuff too. Doug Hoffman has the best pushback wire that I found, though I've heard that Mojo Tones is quite good too. I love CE Distribution for a lot of stuff, but their pushback wire really isn't pushback. It's cloth over plastic insulation, and it's a pain to work with, and it's way too thick to twist on a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I learned these things the hard way because you buy 100 feet of something, you find out that, oh my God, I can't use this for anything.
Yeah, that's not good. Jim A 5150. Oh, definitely, man. I know you're just joking around. No problem. Don't worry. It's all fun. It's all fun and games here. At least no one's trying to hurt my feelings. So let's see. Mark and Dave, please get Joe Holmes and Dave Phillips on the show, either together or separate episodes. Okay.
I'm working on it.
We'll try.
And tell Dave,
I'm working on Joe Holmes.
Does anyone know if Santiago is back at Marshall? I think he is.
Santiago was back at Marshall, and then he left Marshall again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Poor Marshall.
That's
so no, he's not at Marshall.
Reza, what's up, sluts?
What's up?
I wish I was a slut.
Reza. Where's our sandwiches?
He brings good sandwiches.
Yes, he knows. Langer's Deli.
Oh, Langer's. That's the best.
Langer's. The best pastrami sandwich you're ever going to have, period.
Well, I know it's not at Katz's.
Unbelievable.
Well, I was going to say it's not Katz's, but I'm sure it's good.
Some people might argue it's better.
Well, I haven't had it, so I'm always up for good deli. So
it's
for sure.
It's pretty special.
I'm gonna have to make it out there.
Yeah, it's pretty special. Yeah, come on out. We'll go.
Oh, I'd love to. We've gotten to the end of the questions, and I
really,
I gotten through all the super chats.
That's it.
No more super chats. And Tone Dragon says, "Fuck! How did I miss this?"
Well, you haven't.
It's
you haven't. You can watch it again.
Yeah, you can watch it again. But yeah, Lyle, I want to thank you for coming on.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, we'll have a part 2. Let's do it.
Yeah, we can always do that. I'm gonna bug Lyle on his live chats.
Come bug us. It'd be fun.
Are you drinking decaf or regular, by the way?
Regular, otherwise I'd be asleep. I don't drink decaf coffee.
I'm doing the opposite. I'm drinking Belgian beer.
That'll work.
I'm out of drinks.
And that has already kicked in, let me tell you.
I could hear a little bit. Oh,
yeah, I know.
Scott Robertson, no questions, just a thank you for the show. Hey, thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
And Brad's Guitar Garage, thanks, Legends. Hey, thank you, man.
Legends, come on.
Good evening there, champion.
I'll take it. Let's see, one question here. What do I have to do to get a backlog like Lyle? I'm in the 7th largest city in the US and I'm broke and starving. Start a YouTube channel, bro.
I'm in a much smaller than 7th largest city, but I'm in a music hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in Memphis.
Yeah, so I had an advantage there.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, as you do your channel, I'm sure you know, Lyle. It starts to add up. You know,
yeah,
you start to get advertising.
You can't predict what's kind of.
Do you advertise your?
You
monetize your videos.
I monetize them because I'll take every penny.
I don't know this because I have the YouTube thing where I don't see the ads. So
right, you get the subscription.
Yeah. So, but
but I don't like the way most people do ads. I do the skipping 4-second only at the beginning of a video. I don't interrupt my videos for things, and I don't do sponsorships. I don't want to try to sell someone on a VPN or some crappy video game to play on their phone or any of that stuff. And I'm like, all right, if you don't do the ads at all, YouTube won't promote your videos. So I do the skipping 4, 3, 2, 1 only at the beginning or end, and I don't do any product placement. I don't do any this sponsored by stuff because I'm not interested in that. I don't do any advertising other than the videos and word of mouth. So
all right.
Yep.
And though this, I mean, technically what I'm doing now is advertising. So I appreciate that, and maybe some of my viewers will discover your cool show. So
I hope so.
I hope so.
Everything builds on everything.
Well, make sure everybody checks out, if you haven't already, check out Psionic Audio, Lyle's channel. Make sure you subscribe to it. KGS 1982, no question, but thank you for the super chat.
Thank you.
Scott Wilcox, thank you also. You're awesome. And hang on while we say goodbye, Lyle.
Oh, wait, another one.
I will
oh yeah. F that. Keep Lyle talking. He's got so much to offer. Ask the good questions. Well, Mark does have to sleep at some point.
Yeah,
it's been a long day.
Always has to sleep.
Hey, I'm on the West Coast, man.
I know.
On the East Coast.
Lyle.
I'm on the East Coast.
Well, so you guys are in the same time, are we?
No, he's Eastern. I'm Central.
There you go.
Well,
it's what?
An hour.
10:47. It's 10:47 on my 5th cup of coffee. I could do this all day. I know that mere mortals.
Yeah, you won't go to bed till 3 a.m.
I know you're going to be up for a while.
That's pretty much my life, and then I'll wake up at 8 and start all over again.
Hey, it's funny. I was gonna sell my JJ Jr. on the show tonight.
Yeah.
See if anybody wanted it, but it just literally just sold as we were talking.
There you go.
There you go.
So I don't need
sold my amp.
I know, but I
That's okay. You bought another one.
I bought another one.
I thought you were going to sell your Plexi.
What's that?
I thought you were going to sell your Plexi.
I'm back and forth on it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It sounded great.
It did, yeah.
I don't
so
think
that's
you should sell it.
That's why I'm thinking about not selling it. And I've got
that white one behind you.
No,
that's the no. He has a 50-watt reissue Plexi that I kind of tweaked out.
Yeah,
and
I don't think I'm going to sell it.
And it sounds cool.
Yeah,
cranked.
I don't think that's going anywhere. It was more of just I just don't have a lot of room for every amp.
He keeps buying amps, so
yeah, it's like otherwise.
And now he's going to want to buy one of yours.
Yeah, I do have a problem. So
if I can make them, I'll be glad to sell them.
Well, we'll talk.
You can make them.
We'll get you to make them.
I'll call you tomorrow.
You can make them.
Let's see. What's this question? Mark, ask Lyle if I can
contact
for a repair at Martin Music.
If you're in the Memphis area, just drop off anything you want fixed at Martin Music. I will pick it up in a day or two, and I'll call you that day or the next and let you know what I find and with estimates and all that fun stuff. So I still do stuff locally through Martin Music, and it's nice because I get to, if you're on YouTube and you're like, here's the 63 Vox, here's the 72 Marshall, here's the blah blah blah, it can get kind of rarefied. It's nice for me to say, hey, this guy plays country with a Les Paul and a deluxe reverb, and he sounds awesome. This guy plays gospel. This guy plays this. I meet people all kinds of different backgrounds playing all kinds of apps, and I like having that community connectivity and the ability to say, yeah, I can fix your esoteric expensive app, but yeah, I can make your Pro Junior stop catching on fire. Both things are very valuable services.
Yeah. Peter Lasis, thank you.
Peter, thank you.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody, all you guys watching the show tonight, everybody, all the super chats, all the questions, everybody. You guys are just fantastic. Such a great audience.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We really do appreciate it. If we don't say it enough, appreciate all you viewers, everybody who subscribes to the show. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Come on.
Subscribe to the show.
Subscribe.
It's not that hard.
No, seriously, we love you all.
Click the thing.
You guys are great. Really enjoy doing it. Sorry, I'm getting tired. I'd rather end it than me start.
I know Mark used to have more. Stamina.
Dave used to be able to say stamina.
Yeah, sorry.
I did have more stamina. I did. I like our Saturday afternoon shows better, to be honest with you.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But we've done 4-hour shows on a Friday night.
I was younger then.
Not that much younger. Please.
I was 5.
So you're telling me
years ago.
if we do another Jakey Lee show, you won't do a 4-hour show?
I probably will. I mean, because nobody will
Mark.
let me leave.
Mark,
Yes,
Mark.
coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee
More
is my
coffee.
friend.
More coffee.
Christopher Butler, please tell Lyle that I learned more about what to do, what to know before buying an amp, new or used, in 1 week of binging on his channel that I did in 20 years of reading guitar magazines and online reviews.
That's awesome. That's
thank you,
awesome.
Christopher.
That's
I'm
what it's
really
about.
glad.
That's what it's
Yeah.
about. You should watch Lyle's channel because he's giving you that information.
Thank you, Christopher.
This is true. Jakey Lee permanently aged Mark.
It permanently aged me
I know.
Have you seen what he did to
more
Ozzy?
than Mark, much more than Mark.
Yes, he
Trust
aged
me.
you also.
Let me tell you, if we have him on again, the proposed thing will be epic.
Yes.
So if we can make that happen, you know what? Even if not, I will get him on again.
He'll
But
call me
if we can make the proposed thing that he wants to do happen, you guys will be so happy. So
I agree.
that's all I'm going to say.
I agree. With that said, our next show is a special one. It is with Marty from Motor City Guitar. I just want to.
This is special because I'm going to say this. Look at this. This is me and Marty.
That is Dave and Marty.
So
That's a lot of hair.
I think we're going to title this. I think we're going to title this "The Beginnings," because this is my beginnings. This show will be my beginnings. This is my good friend I grew up with. I didn't have. I was an only child, so I didn't have any brothers or sisters or anything. He was my brother. He was my brother. So he was, obviously he wasn't a blood brother, but he was my brother. And I want to let that be known because like we grew up with all the music and all the stuff that was happening at the time. And that's going to be a special show. Because kind of like a, he's my brother. I refer to him as my brother.
That's awesome, Dave.
And we grew up. He was the first to play guitar, and then of course I was the second to play guitar, and and he was always better than me, of course. And of course, but I was trying to catch up, and we went through these stages of our musical development and these stages of, his sisters were into music and his sisters were into stuff. And we started with that, but then we went into like this heavy music stage that we went through, like this really thrash sort of heavy music stage in the early 80s. And then it just kind of developed past that, So it's really interesting because he has a lot of memories that I probably don't even remember. to be frank, he has a better handle on our memories than I do. And the thing is, he runs a very successful guitar store, Motor City Guitar. A lot of people know who he is, and he has blossomed this business into a huge entity in Detroit, and he has amazing stock of a ton of stuff, and so it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I can't wait to
I look forward to it.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that'll be
Because he's gonna be like, we did that, really? I'm like, I don't remember.
Everyone needs a friend like that.
Yeah,
which is Veterans Day. That's on the 11th.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, please watch, people. It should be exciting and fun, and you get a real background into my very beginnings.
We'll have pictures.
And I think we should title it, Mark, The Beginnings.
In the beginning.
The beginnings.
The beginning. All right, I'll do. No problem.
I think, or something like that, maybe.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Well, Lyle, thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you guys so much. This was a joy to do. Anytime you want to talk about amps, here I be.
Well, we'll have you back on, definitely. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hang on while we say goodbye, Lyle. And you guys take care.
Thank you, guys.
We'll talk soon.